CFAX Victoria.
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
It's here.
CFAX 1070.
Hello, good morning. It's 6 o'clock on Tuesday, May 26th. We are looking at a mix of sun and cloud eventually today. Possible scattered showers still with us as we get into these early morning hours. But yeah, we're back to the sunshine after this. We'll tell you the full forecast in just a moment. Right now, the news begins, and we say good morning to Lisa Best.
A BC Premier will spend a second day in meetings with other Western premiers gathered in Alberta as the acrimony grows over whether Alberta will stay or go. David Eby says he wants to know what the real issue is that has Alberta Premier Danielle Smith moving towards a referendum on separation. He says Smith got everything she wanted from Ottawa in the recent pipeline deal.
Premier Smith got everything that she wanted from that meeting with the Prime Minister. British Columbia got nothing. And the response to that was to bring forward a referendum question about whether or not Albertans should separate from the rest of Canada. And so I don't think this is about a pipeline project. This is about something else. And the impacts on British Columbia of that referendum question are serious and important, as they are for all Canadians. And so that's why it'll be a topic at the table.
Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe is sharing his thoughts on the Alberta stay-go matter. He says he wants Alberta to remain part of Canada, but he's not about to criticize Danielle Smith and her plans for a separation plebiscite this fall. Moe says Smith is just playing by the rules.
She's following the law. She has, 400,000 on that have suggested one question, 300 another. There's some legalities that are going to work their way through there. However, this is not a separation referendum, but her citizen initiatives legislation requires that the government move forward when those parameters are hit.
David Eby says it's more critical, saying the vote comes at a very bad time with the continued threats from the U.S. BC Transit workers locally will vote on a strike mandate for the union on Thursday. Negotiations broke down on the weekend. Union President Stephen Baines was asked what happens after the strike vote.
We've been working hard to keep this city moving. So, right at the forefront of that is our ridership. We are not looking to upset the system or bring the city to a halt. We're looking for a fair deal, and we hope that by Friday the employer will, start reevaluating what they put on the table, and we can finally establish some dates and, like I said, pick up where we left off.
The union says it's open to keep on bargaining this week as they approach that deadline. A South Korean Navy submarine making waves. It remains docked at Esquimalt as Seoul makes a case to supply Canada with its next generation submarines. The KSS-3 vessel is here for joint exercises with Canadian and allied forces. Here's Maritime Forces Pacific Commander Rear Admiral David Patchell.
One of our officers who, as she left the Korean ship, was asked, "What did you learn?" And she said, "Canada needs new submarines."
On that note, Hanwha Defence Canada Managing Director and President Glenn Copeland says the timing's good, with Ottawa expected to announce the winning bid by the end of the month.
There's something we have going for us right now. Canada's asked for a very significant economic package to go with these submarines, which we think we have met the mark on that one. We've hit some very good industrial capabilities that we're going to deliver to Canada. And they've also asked for speed of delivery.
The company is competing against a bid involving Germany and Norway for a multi-billion-dollar contract to replace our aging submarine fleet. The 9 Greater Victoria School Board trustees who were relieved of their positions last year are now poised to return. On Monday, the province overturned the judicial review about to begin after the education minister failed to disclose text messages it was ordered to hand over months ago. Education Minister Lisa Bear says the 3 government orders that were removed, the trustees of District 61 have now been quashed. Bear thinks she'll be able to work with the returning trustees.
They are professional trustees. I'm a professional minister. I know we're going to continue to do the important work for the ministry for the district. We all need to focus on what is best for students.
A provincially appointed lone member, Sherry Bell, has been running the local school board for since last year. Vancouver police say tiny pollen samples may provide a new lead in a nearly 4-year-old mystery involving unidentified human remains found in English Bay. Vancouver Police Sergeant Adam Donaldson says the body was discovered in September of 22.
About a kilometer off the Spanish Banks, a tugboat crew was working. They found the body of a woman in the water. She was with an inflatable kayak. She had some personal items on her, some candy, some insulin, a backpack, but absolutely no identification.
Investigators say testing on the personal items suggests the woman likely spent time in the Pacific Northwest between Seattle and Portland before her death. Police are now working with authorities in Seattle, hoping new public appeals generate some fresh leads on determining who this person is. And jazz saxophonist Sonny Rollins has died at the age of 95, closing a career that helped define modern jazz. Celebrated for his improv style, bold tone, he became the central figure of the bebop era with this song, Saxophone Colossus, among others. Rollins overcame early addiction struggles, reinventing his sound across the decades and influencing generations of musicians. He continued to perform into his 80s before retiring in 2014 due to illness, but he's left us a legacy that spans more than half a century of jazz history. That's your news to 6:06. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question this morning. We're asking you, pertinent question that's in front of me now. Would you use AI to compare and select products when shopping online? You can vote now at CFAX1070.com or on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Lisa Bastian, News Time 6:07.
Thank you, Lisa. Welcome to Tuesday. I see that there still could be some scattered showers.
I got a little rained on my way in.
Yeah, just a little bit, like
Just
kind of a drop.
Sprinkle.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh no.
Yeah,
And then it stopped.
Yeah, it kind of felt like that for me as well. It looks like that's clearing, though, as we get into this morning. We will get into a sunny day eventually, but maybe a little fog, maybe those odd sprinkles still coming down for the next little bit. But eventually, by the afternoon, sunshine, highs of about 19 degrees. A little cooler by the water. We'll get you a full forecast in a moment. Right now, let's talk sports. We'll start in hockey, where the Carolina Hurricanes pushed past the Montreal Canadiens 3-2 in overtime to grab a 2-1 lead in the Eastern Conference Final. Montreal head coach Martin St. Louis says he needs more from his group in the battle against a tested opponent.
There's always learning and failure. We lost tonight. We'll learn from it. That team over there is a good team, very mature. I don't know if we can match their maturity, but we're going to have to elevate that.
Game 4 of this best-of-7 series goes tomorrow, again in Montreal. We also have the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche in action tonight. And the Vegas Golden Knights can advance to the Stanley Cup Final if they just get one more win in this game tonight. It's at home for them. The Knights lead the best-of-7 Western Conference Final 3-0. Unbeaten Canada will play its final preliminary round game today at the World Men's Hockey Championship going on in Switzerland. Canada, with 5 regulation wins and an overtime win, plays Czechia, which has 4 wins, an overtime loss, and a regulation loss. Canada leads the 8-team Group B standings, and the quarterfinals get underway on Thursday. In baseball, Toronto Blue Jays aiming to snap a 2-game losing skid tonight when they host the Miami Marlins in the middle of a 3-game series. The Marlins won their 4th game last night with an 8-2 win over the Jays. Oklahoma City Thunder will attempt to take a 3-2 lead in the NBA's Western Conference Finals when they host the San Antonio Spurs tonight. The winner of this series will face the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. The Knicks swept the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals with a 130-93 victory last night. That is your sports. It is 6:09. Good morning. CFAX Morning Show is brought to you by Thrifty Foods. And at Thrifty Foods, Happy is filling the garden with local flowers, herbs, and soils. Get growing with super savings at Thrifty Foods. The BC Grown Garden Sale is on now. What's going on out there on the roads? Well, at the moment, it's pretty calm. Nothing much going on, but we do have that road work continuing. The paving work on Cook Street near Finlayson, slowing things up. That is going to continue all this week. Watch out for that. But otherwise, everything's looking pretty normal right now. You can text me at 71010 if you see any issues. For BC Ferries, lots of room left. On the 7 o'clock from Swartz Bay to Swassen, vehicle deck space is still available. Let's talk about the weather forecast. We were mentioning earlier, maybe a few sprinkles are still here this morning, but we're going to see the day clear up. We will get a high of 19 degrees, a bit cooler by the water, and a few clouds overnight, lows down to 11. Then tomorrow, sunshine, highs of 23, and getting a little more humid. We've got the Humidex back in action as of tomorrow, a Humidex of 25. So it's going to be a high of 23, but feeling warmer in the humidity. Alternatively, you could be right beside the Juan de Fuca Strait, where it's going to instead feel like 16 degrees. So you got options tomorrow. And then we're going to kind of carry on like that for the next few days. In fact, right through the weekend, it's looking like it's mostly sunny with temperatures around about 20 degrees. Right now, a little cooler than that. For Langford, you're looking at 9 degrees right now. In Oak Bay by the water, it's 10. On the markets, well, nothing much to report yet because they're all closed. Opening bells will ring in a little less than half an hour. So let's take a look at how yesterday shaped up with Aaron Sousa.
Canada's main stock index closed up strong yesterday, boosted by gains in the basic materials sector. Toronto's S&P TSX jumped 359 points to finish at 34,830. Wall Street was closed yesterday for Memorial Day. In Tokyo this morning, the Nikkei lost 162 points. The Hang Seng in Hong Kong fell by just 6. Our dollar is trading this morning at 72 and 46 cents U.S. Canada's international trade minister is in Toronto meeting with Canadian and Indian business people. It comes amid talks of a trade deal between Canada and India. It's something both sides say they're keen to reach. Canada's Western premiers will wrap up their 2-day meeting near Calgary today. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has announced an October referendum on whether Alberta should stay in Canada. It's been stirring debate at the meeting, notably from her BC counterpart, David Eby. And Equifax Canada says insolvencies are at their highest since 2009 at 19%. From the Canadian Press Business Desk, I'm Aaron Sousa.
It's all here. News, weather, traffic, and community events. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday. How's it going out there? Thank you so much for joining us here and making CFAX a part of your morning. I'm Ryan. Lisa's here. Lisa, how you doing?
I'm good, yeah.
You're good?
Yeah. It didn't get rained on.
Yeah.
It was touch and go there for a minute.
Felt like it.
On a Esquimalt. It's like, oh dear.
Now you, I think you've made this public. You have an e-scooter that you take to work, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you've often described yourself as a fair weather scooterer. So
Well,
was this bordering?
There's office etiquette involved.
Okay, you don't want to take a wet scooter and drag it into the office. That's what you're talking about.
That's not cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can't just park these things anywhere because they have a high theft ratio.
Right.
It's hard to lock them up, and there's breaky parts on them and everything. So a little different from a bicycle, but not really, because you see a lot of the bicycles that come up on the police sites that say, "Did you lose this $5,000 bike? Is it yours? Can you identify it?" So, yeah, same idea. But, yeah, I don't like dragging it around where I'm going to track. It's just, to me, that's just, there's office etiquette. And that's one of those things. You don't track mud into the office just like you don't your home.
Makes
at
total
least
sense.
I don't think you do.
Makes total sense.
Maybe some people do.
No, that's true. I totally get that.
You cycle too.
Yeah, but it's a little. If the weather's really garbage, it's easier for me to lock it up outside versus the scooter for sure.
Yeah, I don't usually let it out of my sight.
Yeah.
Steve sits here and looks at it. I find him sketchy now. Scooter envy. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No one has scooter envy. But they're great for transportation.
Yeah, and it's a perfect solution. Just don't try not to get rained on. And today it looks like it's all over. It looks like whatever sprinkles we're getting right now shouldn't be a huge factor.
And I also know that 25 is the limit. I had no idea.
Oh, actually, you know what? If you missed it, you can find audio clips of the things we do here on our website, CFAX1070.com, or you can do the iHeartRadio app, all that stuff. But we had that fascinating conversation with RCMP Corporal Nancy Sagar a couple of weeks back.
It was very enlightening.
And she's, I didn't know this. So
me neither.
E-bikes and e-scooters have different speed limits.
Correct.
And you mentioned that it was 25 for an e-scooter.
Right.
And
now, I don't expect to get radared for 5. I hope Nancy's not listening.
Right.
But my scooter is maxed at 30. That's the highest I can go because when it was created, and this is a bit the Wild West of Scooterland, that was the limit that the actuaries had sort of given it. The police forces said, say it'll be 30, because that's also the speed limit posted on the Galloping Goose. However, now I'm learning it's 25 in most communities in BC. So, yeah, it's 25. So anybody on those, high-test scooters that do 70, no. Can't do that.
Yeah, interesting stuff.
I don't know if tickets going out, but I'm sure they will be.
Yeah. Yeah, find that interview on the website. You can also find it on YouTube, by the way, because we now stream all these things on YouTube. If you haven't looked there, you can follow us and subscribe us. Right now, let's take a look at what's happening in the headlines. Lisa, what's in the news?
The island's trust did not abuse process with a bylaw notice on Gabriel Island. The Supreme Court of BC now upholding a previous decision related to enforcement of Gabriel Island's land use bylaw. It stems from a case of 2 bylaw violation notices issued in relation to a property zoned large rural residential within the minimum setback area and noise and hours of operation of a home-based business after 8 o'clock at night. The petitions were dismissed in their entirety and the costs were awarded to the Gabriel Island Local Trust Committee. A memo from the Prime Minister in the days after the mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge cautioned the sentiment was shifting from grief to questions about firearm access and warning signs that may have been missed. The Privy Council note said overall public reaction was a sense of shock and national mourning, but advised that others wondered about issues such as mental health interventions or lack of. The memo obtained by the Canadian Press under the Access to Information Act says confidence in first responders was intact after 9 people died, including the killer who took their life. The note to Carney summarized that what was known about the shooter and the killer and included an analysis of statements reported by media and on social media. And in Laos, a search operation for 7 villagers trapped inside a flooded cave in the central part of that country has entered day 7. Rescuers are encountering difficult terrain and weather in their effort to reach the group. The 7 entered the cave last Tuesday, then flash floods blocked their exit. Rescuers say they will explore air shafts above the cave to hopefully help locate the trapped villagers and pump water out to ease the search. The villagers reported went in looking for gold deposits despite warnings about the danger involved. That's your news to 6:18.
We got the electric scooter conversation going here at 7:10. Texter says, yep, a neighbor converted my bike to electric and it's a game changer. I can't figure out why my bike slows down at 31 kilometers an hour, though.
That's why.
The bikers, are the bikes designed to do that? Well, yeah, I guess they have limiters on them,
It's a
don't they?
limiter on it,
Yeah.
and mine has the same limiter, but don't mess with the limiter because it messes with the bike, and you don't be messing with anything battery-wise. Some people supercharge their batteries, and then a lot of times you can get those flash fires from that. That's what fire officials have told me that can be linked to. So however it is, keep that encased and make sure your battery's in good shape. If you hit it from underneath it all, make sure you check it to make sure the casing is still intact.
Another texter says, some dude on a super e-scooter was booting down the bike lane yesterday at about 50 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
I guess other people don't have limiters, so I guess that's a thing as well.
And that's the problem. And at that speed, you need so much space and time to stop because you actually have to notice there's something in front of you first, and you've got to hit the brakes. The brakes on those things aren't that great. And if you hit a pedestrian at 50, you're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. Wait, we'll... Feel free to text us at 71010. Join the conversation. We'll get into it. But I got to make room for our next topic, and that is reaching out to Ottawa, because in the House of Commons yesterday, there was a vote that did not go the way of a Conservative opposition motion to use a legal argument that private property rights extinguish Aboriginal title. Now, this comes, of course, after the questions and issues surrounding property rights due to the Cowichan Tribes ruling, very close to us here, and very close to the area covered by the Conservative MP for Cowichan Malahat Langford, Jeff Kibble, who's joining us on the line next to talk more about this. So that's coming up right after traffic and weather. CFAX at 70 traffic and weather. No volume delays from the West Shore yet. No crashes or accidents on our local roads. We've got really a great situation so far. Nothing to see here, folks. Let's go to the BC Ferry. 7 o'clock sailing. Lots of room left. Nothing to see there either. And in the weather forecast, maybe the odd sprinkle of rain could still be with us this morning. We've been seeing just a few scattered showers overnight that are coming to an end, and we'll see the skies start to clear up by noon. We should be into a few sunny breaks. Highs hitting 19 degrees today, a little cooler by the water. Right now we're sitting at 10 degrees for the most part.
Don't attempt your morning commute without us. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
A majority of the House of Commons voted against a non-binding motion yesterday that called on the federal government to protect private property rights from First Nations land claims. A political issue that, of course, came out of very local issue, the Cowichan Tribes ruling. Here to talk more about it, Conservative MP for Cowichan Malahat Langford, Jeff Kibble, is on the line. Sir, hello, how are you?
Good morning, Ryan. Very well. How are you?
Great to get you here. So why don't you, if you don't mind, walk us through kind of what this motion was all about yesterday. I know it got defeated in the end yesterday, but talk about what it was trying to do.
Well, let's just go back a little bit farther. Recently, the BC Supreme Court made a decision in the Cowichan case, and this was over a property of 700-odd acres in Vancouver. And unfortunately, the case did more than just determine that part of the land. It established in the BC Court of Appeals that Aboriginal title is superior. That's the word from the decision, and is now a legal precedent across Canada. Aboriginal title is superior to fee simple title. Fee simple title, of course, being your private property land, and that ruling affects municipal lands and businesses and industry and of course, your home. So we put a motion forward, an opposition motion, to protect private property. And this isn't against First Nations, and this isn't against Aboriginal title, but it's against the argument that Aboriginal title is superior to fee simple title. And our motion was to put private property first in the Cowichan case, because some of that land is private property, and there's a whole follow-on court case going on that. Also, that no agreement be made without explicit property protection. And if you remember, the Musqueam secretly done agreement between the government and the Musqueam gave Aboriginal title to most of Greater Vancouver. And so you can see the conflict now when that precedence is established in court. And our third point, publish a plan within 30 days for the Prime Minister to publish this plan to take his steps of what they're going to do to protect private property. And lastly, we're calling on the government to convene a parliamentary committee across parties to study all legal, constitutional, and political steps to protect private property rights in Canada. Look, the private property is the fundamentals of our economy and our country, and we can't operate without this system that our country is built on. So we were very disappointed. I was very disappointed, and we put a lot of work into this, that we need a solution that will support unity, economic stability, and reconciliation. And right now, we're seeing exactly the opposite happening. So, as I said, disappointed that motion collapsed or failed.
Now, the Cowichan tribes themselves, the BC government, have said that neither side there wants to, trump private property rights. And we've got a bunch of court cases, appeals that are being done on this issue. I think both the federal government and provincial governments have appealed the issue. So is it possible that this will sort itself out without the kind of motion that you were trying to bring yesterday?
Well, we need leadership from the Prime Minister to help sort this out. And as far as the Cowichan saying that they are not interested in private property, I respect that statement. However, the precedent has now been set in the BC Appeals Court that Aboriginal title is superior to your private property title. So regardless of what Cowichan or any other organization or First Nation wants, that's the simple, as I said, we're not directed at Cowichan, we're directed at this court decision that establishes a precedent going forward in the future that could impact the very fiber of Canada. And, it's, a lot of people say, don't worry about it. Nothing's going to happen. We're not here to stick our heads in the sand. We're here to get to the bottom of this. And legal experts that work even for the government, are saying that this is a terrible decision and we need a plan in place that will protect reconciliation, which we see this is a major step backwards, and come up with a solution for Canada. And right now, frankly, the federal government the Liberals are not doing anything about it. I had a question and question period today, and I said this was a failure of leadership of the Prime Minister, because they're saying and doing nothing other than saying, Canada, stick your head in the sand. They should be calling and bringing unity, economic certainty, and supporting reconciliation. They're failing on all three fronts.
But the federal government has appealed the decision, right? So it is in the courts. Is that? I mean, I'm maybe that's not good enough, but is that at least what we're kind of waiting on here?
Yeah, a great question. I'm sitting in my office in Ottawa right now, looking out the window at the Supreme Court of Canada, which is where this decision is being appealed at. Unfortunately, the federal government, under Directive Number 14, directed, and this has been a long-standing directive, directed federal government lawyers, and this was in the lower courts in British Columbia to not use the argument for extinguishment. It's a legal argument that would basically allow extinguishment of Aboriginal title by fee simple title that's already in place. And the Liberal government directive, and it's been around for a while, effectively handcuffed federal government lawyers, which is why this crazy decision has come out. And they will not be able to use that argument. Federal government lawyers will not be able to use that argument now because they didn't use it in a lower court. They will not be able to use it when they go to a Supreme Court. There's potentially some workarounds in that, but this is going to the Supreme Court, and it's going with the business. Is also just yesterday, and I haven't heard the results yet, but a company, Montrose, from Richmond, that owns property there and is unable to get mortgages on their property, is also part of this, a separate appeal of this decision in the Supreme Court. So there's other avenues to tackle this, but it needs to get resolved. And most importantly, we need the Prime Minister to finally show any sort of leadership in this, which they failed to do. And he's supposed to be serving Canadians, and all we're getting is division, economic uncertainty, and damage to reconciliation.
Member of Parliament Jeff Kibble, he represents Cowichan and Malahat Langford with the Conservatives. Always great to talk to you, and thank you for weighing in on this issue after the vote yesterday. Much appreciated.
Yeah, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. I would love an opportunity to talk about Bill C-11 in the near future. It was also voted down by the Liberals, some amazing amendments that we collaboratively put into to make dealing with military sexual trauma stronger and better. They voted that down. I'd love an opportunity to speak about that in the near future. Thanks, Ryan, for the call.
Okay, well, let's set something up. We'll talk again soon. But right now, we got to make room for the 6:30 news next on CFAX 1070. Monty Python's Spam-A-Lot is coming to the Royal Theatre this August, and CFAX wants to send you. Lovingly ripped off from the film classic Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the Tony Award-winning Spam-A-Lot has everything you need for a great night at the theater. Flying cows, killer rabbits, rubbery shrubbery, and of course, the Lady of the Lake. Listen to Mornings with Ryan and Lisa on CFAX 1070 for your chance to win a pair of tickets. Details at cfax1070.com.
CFAX Victoria,
An iHeartRadio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning, 6:33 on this Tuesday, May 26th. A little late for the news. Let's get right to it. Here is Lisa Best.
Thank you. Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month continues. A 40-year-old man lost his life in a collision with a semi-truck in Ladysmith. It happened yesterday. RCMP closed the southbound lanes of the Trans-Canada Highway at Timberland Road for about 4 hours to investigate what happened. The 40-year-old colliding with a semi. RCMP traffic reconstructionists attended the scene, assisting with the investigation to determine what happened with the crash. No word on the name of the victim involved. Another drug bust in Saanich. Saanich this time. A search warrant was executed on May 15th at a residence in the 400 block of Duplin Road. in relation to a trafficking investigation. That's drug trafficking. At the same time, a search warrant executed at a storage locker that was linked to the investigation. The seizure netted about 3 kilograms, what's believed to be fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine, and about 10 liters of GHB. The estimated street value totaled $55,000. $25,000 worth of stolen property also recovered, including heat pumps, air conditioner, generators, even lawnmowers. 2 people were arrested at the time and then later released. BC Transit workers in Victoria will vote on a strike mandate for the union on Thursday. Unifor Local 333 says negotiations ended just after midnight Saturday. Union President Stephen Bain says some of the issues would be a no-brainer to resolve.
We are seeing an upward trajectory of mental health leave, so we're fighting for sufficient sick time and some increases to some other benefits. But further to that, we're just looking for things that, quite honestly, should have been a no-brainer to the employer. For example, we're just looking for scheduling efficiencies that allow our operators time to use the restroom while also providing accurate and realistic schedules for the ridership.
The union says it's open to bargaining this week as they head toward Thursday. The case of the former District 61 School Board, all 9 members being relieved of their positions last year, has taken a strange twist. Hours ahead of a judicial review on Monday, Education Minister Lisa Bear announced that the 3 government orders that removed those school district trustees have been quashed. She explains the action.
I've recently been advised by my ministry staff that the ministry inadvertently failed to provide all necessary documents compromising the fair and timely adjudication of this case. This decision by the province is the responsible step after acknowledging these significant errors. These errors came to light in the last few days. The court will decide what happens next in the coming week at the scheduled hearing.
The move means those 9 trustees can be reinstated to their positions. And BC Premier David Eby says he wants to talk to Alberta Premier Danielle Smith about her plans to hold a binding referendum on separation. He says it's an inopportune time to vote for the future of Alberta within Canada, and he intends to make his feelings clear on day 2 of their meetings in Kananaskis.
When Canadians sing, "We stand on guard for thee," I think Canadians mean it. And I think they're doing it in their daily lives, and I think it's inspirational. It has been inspirational. And we do it to make sure that the True North is strong and free, and that's what we're going to do. And I hope that that's what we can leave this meeting committing to as premiers in this crucial moment for our country.
Smith says she wants Alberta to stay in Canada, but those requesting the plebiscite deserve to have their say, and that will come in October. That's your news to 6:36. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question: would you use artificial intelligence to compare and select products when you're shopping online? 12% say yes, 24% say maybe, and the majority, 64%, no. You can vote at CFAX1070.com, also the iHeartRadio app. I'm Lisa Best, your news time, 6:38.
Thanks, Lisa. A few sprinkles could still be with us this morning, but we are going to start clearing up and heading back to a sunny afternoon and a sunny week with a few clouds. After that, we'll get you the full forecast in a moment. All right, now let's talk about the sports, and we'll talk hockey to start with, where the Montreal Canadiens dropped the game last night. They are now down 2-1 in their best-of-7 series against the Carolina Hurricanes. It was a 3-2 overtime win for the Hurricanes last night. So they now have that 2-1 lead in the series, with Game 4 going tomorrow in Montreal again. And the Vegas Golden Knights, they can punch their ticket to the Stanley Cup Final with a win tonight at home against the Colorado Avalanche. The Knights lead the best-of-7 Western Conference Final 3-0. In soccer, Canada's men's soccer team is missing a crucial player at a pre-World Cup training camp going on in Charlotte, North Carolina this week. Head coach Jesse Marsch says Bayern Munich star Alphonso Davies will stay in Germany to recover from a hamstring injury before joining the team next week.
And in the end, what we both want is for Alphonso to be strong and healthy and be available for the biggest matches for both Bayern and for us. Unfortunately, over the last year plus, it hasn't gone that way, but we're all working together, to try to help that situation improve, and for most importantly for Alphonso.
Now, Marsch says it is unlikely Davies will be ready to play in Canada's first game of the tournament, which will be against Bosnia-Herzegovina on June 12th. Blue Jays are in action. We've got the middle of this set against the Miami Marlins going right now. The Marlins won their fourth straight game last night with an 8-2 win over the Jays. And in basketball, defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder will attempt to take a 3-2 lead in the NBA's Western Conference Finals when they host the San Antonio Spurs tonight. The winner of this series will face the New York Knicks in the NBA Finals. The Knicks swept the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals with a 130-93 victory last night. That is your CFAX Sports to 640. CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Coastal Heat Pumps. For a comfortable home no matter the season, big savings on your heating bill. Talk to Coastal Heat Pumps, designed for comfort, the South Island's Elite Plus Fujitsu Air Stage dealer. So the traffic continues to be fairly light right now. No major issues. If you see something, do text me at 71010. Paving work back on Cook Street near Finlayson, either side of Finlayson, and affecting Finlayson eastbound heading towards Cook, which is the same as it's been for a while now, and it's going to carry on for the rest of the week as well, but expect that to be causing delays. For the BC Ferries, no sailing weights, and for the weather, still a chance of sprinkles this morning. We got a little cloud out there, but we are going to be clearing near noon. We'll get into a high of 19 degrees, but cooler by the water. Tomorrow, sunshine, highs of 23, a little bit of humidity in the air as well, making it feel a bit warmer. But as always, it's Victoria, cooler if you're by the water. Then sunshine with a few clouds here and there right through the rest of the weekend, through the weekend, and temperatures holding fairly steady in the 20-degree range. Humidity aside for days like tomorrow. Right now, a little cooler than that. It's around about 10 degrees for most of us. It's 10 degrees right now at Swan Lake in the Saanich area. Opening bells for North American stock markets ringing a little later this hour. Canadian markets saw some boosts yesterday. U.S. markets were closed, but the S&P TSX up 359 points at the end of the day to 34,830. Canadian dollar in overseas trading at 72.4 cents U.S.
Thanks for starting your day with us. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
We've got so much going on the show today. So, a lot of folks wondering, when will the winner of the Black Keys Summer of Rock contest get called?
I was wondering myself.
We were all wondering,
Yeah.
but we just had so many entries. It took a lot to stuff all those ballots into the little hat that we're drawing
it's
the
a
name
hat
out
now.
of.
I thought it was a barrel.
Or barrel. It's my story's changing, is it?
We're holding it to it, Ryan.
The container.
We want a winner.
The container that holds all the ballots. Anyways, we've got it all done, and I'm just letting you know.
Yes.
If you were waiting, you got to take the call, right, to win. We're going to do that in the 7 o'clock hour.
Okay.
I think kind of after the 7:30 news and traffic and sports and all that
that's
stuff.
like 7:30 to 8 o'clock then is
Sort
what
of in
you're
that
telling us?
window.
If the phone rings, answer it.
Make sure you're ready to take a call because we're going to draw that name and make that call coming up in that stretch of time there.
Okay.
The other thing is that was the Black Keys Summer of Rock contest. But we got a whole different band this week. It's Motley Crue. If you hear a Motley Crue song this week, that is your cue to text the word rock, R-O-C-K.
Not Motley Crue.
Don't text Motley Crue.
And not Rick.
Not Rick. Rock. It's rock at 71010 to be entered. And just listen for your chance to text. It's all brought to you by the Sax Point Pub in Esquimalt.
Yeah.
And it's Motley Crue tickets. It'll be the Helijet flights. It'll be the Rosedale and Robson Street Hotel accommodations. All that stuff it could be yours if you text when you hear the song. The other thing that's going on, because I'm not even done with the contests.
Okay.
We're doing, and maybe you missed this yesterday because we did the first one yesterday, the Spam-A-Lot giveaway.
Love it.
So do you know what Spam-A-Lot is? It's basically a Broadway musical version of Monty Python and the Holy Grail, their classic film. It's coming to the Royal Theatre. It's one of those Broadway and Victoria shows in August, and we want to send you and a friend. We got 2 tickets, but we're making you work for this one.
A little bit.
You got to call us, and you got to give us just a few lines, or maybe the whole thing, whatever you want to do, some level of a Monty Python sketch. You got to perform that for us.
If you know the whole thing, we can't take it to 11. So give us just a snippet. We want a small but memorable soliloquy from you. Anything Monty Python. Because everybody's got something Monty Python in their repertoire.
Yeah, and like we had the winner yesterday. He just kind of gave us a couple of lines from the parrot sketch.
Greg did.
It was Greg, yeah. It was
shrubbery,
great.
for example, you
could do the shrubbery.
Wax on shrubbery.
You could do all of them. That, by the way, we're going to do in the 8 o'clock hour.
Okay. Oh,
So we're going to call a winner for the. There's just so much going on. This is what I mean. We got 7:30. We're going to call the Black Keys winner. Spam-A-Lot in the 8 o'clock hour.
All right.
You've been warned. So much contesting.
You can warn us all you want about contests. We'll take it.
It's 6:46. Over to the headlines with Lisa.
David Eby posting some warnings. Western and Northern Premiers meeting again today on this final day of a 2-day get-together that's gone quite spicy in Kananaskis, Alberta. This comes less than a week after Alberta Premier Danielle Smith announced that referendum question that will ask Albertans if they want to remain part of Canada or begin the process to hold a binding referendum on separation. BC Premier David Eby told the media yesterday he's asking why the premiers are meeting in Alberta to discuss cooperation when the host premier wants to test separation. Good point. Eby says testing the bonds that hold Canada together empowers people who would, quote, break our country up and sell it for the parts. The head of the World Health Organization is warning of the rapidly growing Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda. Says it will get worse before things get better. There's been more than 900 cases and more than 220 suspected deaths reported so far. WHO Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says during a virtual briefing of those totals, 101 cases and 10 deaths have been confirmed linked to Ebola. We're going to hear more on this from infectious disease specialist Dr. Isaac Bogosh is going to be live on CFAX in just a couple of minutes talking about all the recent risks that we've had regarding viruses. And Equifax Canada says insolvency volumes have risen to the highest level since 2009. The firm's first quarter report on consumer credit trends says systemic risks persist, even while Canadians are staying financially disciplined to cope with economic challenges. Insolvency volumes by the quarter were up nearly 19% year over year as homeowners come under increasing financial strain. Homeowner insolvencies rose about 11% from the fourth quarter of last year. That is your news to 648.
So FIFA World Cup is, of course, coming to Vancouver, to Toronto, to cities across the United States and Mexico. But some are growing a little concerned about the influx of people this will bring at a time where we're seeing Ebola as a new infectious disease making the headlines. And we're kind of wondering, do we have to be concerned about that? With all these people descending to places like Vancouver. Well, we've got an infectious disease expert joining us next with his take on that. So stand by for that conversation in just a moment. We'll also get your traffic and weather next.
From CFAX 1070.
Here's what's happening around the island.
Join Capital Bike for Spring Go By Bike Week, May 30th to June 5th. Register and find celebration stations at gobybikebc.ca. Sign up for the Walk for Alzheimer's Sunday, May 31st at Fisherman's Wharf. More info at walkforalzheimers.ca.
Get more event info at CFAX1070.com.
If it's happening, it's here.
CFAX 1070.
CFAX 1070 Morning Show. It is brought to you by Thrifty Foods. At Thrifty Foods, Happy is filling the garden with local flowers, herbs, and soils. Get growing at the Thrifty Foods BC Grown Garden Sale. It's on now. Okay, traffic and weather. No crashes, no accidents. If you see anything, let me know at 71010. But yeah, it's pretty typical so far this morning. Paving work is back on Cook Street at Finlayson. That's all this week and was all last week too. No waits at BC Ferries, and our weather forecast does start improving as the day goes on. We've got maybe the odd shower still scattering around Victoria right now, but that's going to clear up, and we're going to eventually by afternoon get into some sunshine. Highs around 19 degrees and a few clouds overnight, lows to 11, and no more precipitation in the forecast after this morning. It looks like it's just sort of a mix of sun and cloud for the rest of the week.
In the kitchen, in the car, and at the office. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070. Take us with you. Listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
Well, Ebola and the World Cup of Soccer, which happens to be coming very close to us here in Vancouver and Toronto as well. To talk about this and whether or not this is a concern we should be thinking about, I've got Dr. Isaac Bogosh, professor at the University of Toronto in the Department of Medicine and an infectious disease specialist at Toronto General Hospital, joining us on the line. Sir, how you doing?
I'm well, thanks.
I'm great. Yeah, we got Vancouver here. You're in Toronto. Two cities that are hosting World Cup games. Of course, they're all across the United States and Mexico as well. And now we've got a new infectious disease, which is making a lot of headlines, Ebola. Is this something that we should be thinking about here and, thinking about being brought here by players or fans or, you got a whole bunch of people about to descend on us from all around the world. Is this something to think about?
Always something to think about, with or without the World Cup. It's really important to recognize that we know there's infections that occur in other parts of the world, but also important to recognize that we live in an unprecedented era of human global mobility. And we've seen it time and time again that infections can originate in one part of the world and land in another part of the world. So while the probability of that is very, very low, of course not 0%, but very, very low, we still have to be prepared for the remote possibility that it happens, and be prepared that if if it does happen, we can take appropriate steps to ensure that A, the individual is cared for with the highest quality of medical care, and B, that we don't see further propagation of any infection in Canada.
Now, to give us a baseline for this, what can you tell us about what we're seeing? And I guess it's the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is sort of the main center of this so far, where Ebola has been a story. And I believe it is deemed a public health emergency by the World Health Organization so far. What's the situation right now? Like, where is it at there?
It's pretty bad. I mean, if we look at this compared to other Ebola virus outbreaks, this is going to rank in probably the top 25th percentile of size. The reason it's big is because it wasn't really identified as Ebola for several weeks, so it gave it an opportunity to spread. Now, it's in a part of the Democratic Republic of Congo in the Far East where there's a lot of security concerns, so it makes it challenging for the public health specialists to get in the area safely and start to care for patients and quell the outbreak. Now, they did have an outbreak in that similar part of the Congo in 2018, and it took about 2 years to get it under control. And it's hard to say what this one's going to shape up to be, but I just wouldn't be surprised if this takes a lot of time to A, get it under control, and B, extinguish it altogether. The other issue, too, is that it's crossed international borders, and there's been a few cases in neighboring Uganda. And anytime we're dealing with a multi-country outbreak, it just further complicates things. It's just more challenging to coordinate efforts. Some of the borders in these areas are a bit porous, so this is going to be tricky. But absolutely, I think the WHO and the local public health teams will be able to get it under control. They just need the appropriate resources, and of course, it's going to take some time.
How does Ebola spread, and what kind of concern is there for us if we're again, being a little selfish, thinking about us here and all the people coming to Canada and the U.S. and Mexico? Like, how big of a risk is Ebola when it comes to spreading?
So it doesn't spread as easily as something like, for example, COVID, right? This is through direct or very close contact with contaminated body fluids. And people with Ebola, as most people listening would know, they get very, very sick. It's a really sad and challenging infection. You can have terrible nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. You have a propensity for bleeding, and people can get this by having direct or very close contact with infectious bodily fluids. That's why the personal protective equipment is worn. Now you see people wearing what it looks like spacesuits when they're caring for patients suffering with Ebola virus. That's not because it's so exquisitely transmissible. It's because the consequences of infection can be very severe. That's why. But it's not as easily transmitted as something that's, for example, transmitted through the air like COVID or flu. And I think it's really important to distinguish two things here. One is, what is the risk of this coming to Canada? And the risk, of course, is not 0%, but it's pretty low. But still, we have to be prepared for it. But the other part that gets left out of the conversation is, okay, in the worst case scenario, if it is brought to Canada, what's going to happen? And the answer is, listen, you wouldn't expect to see a big outbreak of this in the country, right? We have a functional public health system at federal, provincial, and municipal levels. We have good hospitals. We have adequate supplies of personal protective equipment, and we know how to use them. So in the worst case scenario, if a case is imported to Canada, we might see, a close family member or a direct contact of a person who might get infected with this, or no one else will get infected, or no one will. But it might be just a very close contact. But this is not going to cause a wide outbreak in Canada if, in the worst case scenario, it was imported.
Dr. Bogosh, with that said, and I understand with pandemic, we trigger sometimes based on the fact that, we did recently go through COVID. With something happening, as Canada sees it half a world away, we still can't be apathetic regarding this in letting our guard down for something that, maybe a remote possibility, but still possible.
I am singing the exact same tune you are. I agree with you 100%. And I could talk for hours, which I know we don't have time to discuss, the gazillions of pathogens that emerge in one part of the world and make their way to other parts of the world, and how we have to triple down on our efforts to prevent, detect, and respond to these emerging pathogens. And the way to do it is not just be prepared in Canada, but to support low and middle income countries around the world where the pathogens originate, to support them in prevention, detection, and response. A, because it's an ethical and moral thing to do, and B, it also creates a safer world, which means a safer Canada. So yeah, I agree with you 100%. We are living in an unprecedented era of interconnectivity on the planet, and we know that infections can jump from point A to point B on the planet in as little as 24 hours.
So I guess maybe a good takeaway, we're out of time, but just if you're out there and you're thinking, I'm hearing headlines about this thing called Ebola in Africa. I'm hearing that the World Cup is on and the world is about to descend on cities like Vancouver. Should I be concerned? I guess your answer is we should always be vigilant, but generally speaking, we shouldn't be too worried about some big Ebola outbreak happening here. That's not realistic in your view.
I would have framed it differently, but the message is about the same.
You would have said it much better than me.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, I'm totally with you on that. But no, I think that's exactly what I was wondering about, and I think you gave me some great perspective there, and hopefully for anybody listening who was having the same thoughts, that kind of gives you some grounding in the realities here as we kind of watch this news story and get ready to welcome the world to Canada, to the United States and Mexico for the FIFA World Cup soccer games. Dr. Isaac Bogosh, professor at the University of Toronto. Great to talk to you. Thank you.
Go Canada, go.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
CFAX Victoria,
an iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It is 7:01 on Tuesday, May 26th. Let's take a look quickly at the weather. Some showers possible still this morning, but that's about to get out of the forecast. Some sunshine's on the way for later today and the rest of the week. Full forecast to come. But right now, the news begins, and here is Lisa Best.
You could say Korea is courting Canada in the waters of Esquimalt Harbor. South Korea's flagship submarine is parked here as part of that country's effort to secure our next major submarine contract worth about $25 million. Hanwha Defense Canada Managing Director and President Glenn Copeland says the submarine meets all of Canada's requirements.
We can deliver the first one by 2032 and 4 of them by 2035. So when you put it in that respect and saying those are the two major requirements for Canada, we feel very good about our chances.
As we learn that Canadian and South Korean officials say the visit also highlights growing military cooperation between the two countries, which is good news. UVic military history professor David Zimmerman is going to be live at 8:50 to talk more about that sub in our local waters as Canada looks to spend $25 million on 12 new vessels. BC Premier David Eby says he's wondering why Western Canada premiers are meeting in Alberta to talk cooperation when the host premier wants to test separation. Eby told reporters that the fall referendum comes at a very bad time.
To say that this is the worst time to begin testing the bonds that hold this country together is a significant understatement. It threatens our national economy. It empowers the people who would break our country up and sell us for parts.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith announced last week that an October referendum question will ask Albertans if they want to remain in Canada or start the process to hold a binding referendum on separation. That to come this fall. The 9 Greater Victoria School Board trustees who lost their positions last year are now poised to return. The province made the call as a judicial review was about to start yesterday after the Education Ministry failed to disclose text messages it was ordered to hand over months ago. Education Minister Lisa Bear announced that the 3 government orders that removed the trustees of District 61 have now been quashed. Provincially appointed Sherry Bell, who's been running the local school board alone since last year, no word on what happens next with her role. Police in Vancouver say pollen may actually help pinpoint the last location of a woman whose body was found in the waters off Vancouver. She was discovered in September of 2022 by a tugboat crew. An inflatable kayak nearby and candy and insulin in her backpack with no ID. Vancouver Police Sergeant Anton Schaumburger says forensic testing of the pollen at a U.S. Custom and Border Protection Lab on the women's belongings has narrowed down that she came to the Seattle or Portland area before her body was discovered.
They can analyze grains of pollen found on most surfaces and provide a geographical location of origin for that pollen.
Police have released a video about the findings. They'll be holding a news conference with Seattle police to try to identify someone who may know who this woman is. And the Pentagon says the U.S. launched a strike in Iran as Iranian officials arrive in Qatar for peace talks. ABC News senior political correspondent Rachel Scott has the latest.
U.S. Central Command describing the strikes as self-defense that targeted missile launch sites and Iranian boats that were attempting to put mines in the Strait of Hormuz. Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying the strait will be open one way or another, but did not provide details on how that would happen.
It's going to take a couple days to settle on even down to the disagreements over a word, sentence. So we'll have to work through that.
On Saturday, President Trump said a framework for a deal to end the war had been largely negotiated.
And that is your news to 7:05. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question: would you use artificial intelligence to compare and select products when you're shopping online? 64% say nope, 24% say maybe, and 12% say absolutely. You can vote now at CFAX1070.com. Also on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Lisa Best, your news time, 7:07.
Thanks, Lisa. Good morning. Welcome to Tuesday. So much going on. Later this hour, we will call our first CFAX Summer of Rock winner. If you entered, make sure you're listening for your phone to ring sometime later this hour, kind of after 7:30 there.
If it rings,
yeah,
pick it up.
Yeah, that's coming up. And then this caller will get the Black Keys tickets.
Right.
And the helicopter ride and the accommodations. It's all powered by Sax Point Pub.
And you can take a friend with you.
Yeah, because it's 2 tickets.
It's not just one.
So that's this one. But then there's also this week's artist. So
Right.
you're listening for a Motley Crue song all this week. When you hear it, text ROCK to 71010. In CFAX 1070 Sports, let's take a look at hockey first off, where the Carolina Hurricanes pushed past the Montreal Canadiens 3-10 in overtime to grab a 2-1 lead in the Eastern Conference Final. Montreal head coach Martin St. Louis saying he needs more from his group against a battle-tested opponent.
There's always learning and failure. We lost tonight. We'll learn from it. That team over there is a good team, very mature. I don't know if we can match their maturity, but we're going to have to elevate that.
Game 4 of the Best of 7 series goes tomorrow back in Montreal. In soccer, Canada's top men's soccer players are assembling in Charlotte, North Carolina this week for a final training camp ahead of the World Cup. And head coach Jesse Marsh says the group is young, athletic, with a clear identity.
There's no reason why we can't have high expectations for ourselves. So calmly, effectively, in a disciplined way, we're going to make sure that we're ready for whatever challenges come our way, and we're really excited about that. We're really excited about our group.
Now, one of the members of the group who's a bit in question is the star, Bayern Munich star Alphonso Davies, who is expected to stay in Germany to recover from a hamstring injury before joining the team next week. And Marsh, in that news conference, said it's unlikely he'd be ready to play in Canada's first game of the tournament, which is against Bosnia-Herzegovina on June the 12th. In basketball, defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder will attempt to take a 3-2 lead in the NBA's Western Conference Final when they host the San Antonio Spurs tonight. The winner of this series will now go on to face the New York Knicks in the finals, because the Knicks swept the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals, and that all ended yesterday with a 130-93 victory for the Knicks. And that is your sports to 7:09. We'll take a quick break here. Traffic and weather coming up, and then a little bit of Victoria history that took place on this date. A disaster in 1896. We look back next. CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Thrifty Foods. At Thrifty Foods, happy is filling the garden with local flowers, herbs, and soils. Get growing with super savings at Thrifty Foods BC Grown Garden Sale. It's on now. Traffic and weather. Text me if you see any problems out there at 71010. But right now, it's a very typical commute. We're seeing the volume delays building up from the West Shore into Victoria. We've got the paving work on Cook Street on either side of Finlayson. But those are just sort of the standard things we've been going through. Nothing unusual. For BC Ferries, no sailing waits. The 9 is your next available vessel. Lots of room left for vehicle deck space. The weather forecast, well, we still got this chance of some scattered showers with us this morning. We have been seeing a few drops falling, but it's going to clear up around noon. We'll get into some sunshine for the other half of the day. Highs of 19. Cooler by the water. Few clouds tonight, lows to 11. For the rest of the week, tomorrow, Wednesday, a bit unusual in that we're going to get the humidity with us. So it's going to be sunny with a high of 23, but a humidex is now a factor where we're going to feel a little muggy. We'll see sunshine for Thursday and a mix of sun and cloud for Friday and the weekend, with temperatures maybe cooling a little bit, but not much. We'll see that 23 humid day tomorrow, but it's supposed to be closer to about 20 degrees kind of for the rest of the week and into the weekend. Right now, about 10 degrees around Victoria. All right, getting our first numbers in from North American stock markets, where the S&P TSX has fallen 112 points so far to 34,718. The Dow in New York is up 38 to 50,618. The Nasdaq is up 261 to 26,604. Canadian dollar at 72.5 cents US.
Ryan and Lisa. Mornings on CFAX 1070. Remember, you have us in the palm of your hand. For listeners on the go, listen live on the free iHeartRadio app.
One of the worst disasters to ever happen right here in Victoria happened on this day, May 26th, in 1896. Lisa, this was the day that the Point Ellis Bridge streetcar disaster happened.
Okay. Educate us.
Yeah, so it was on this day, and this happened to be the Victoria Day long weekend, the way that the calendar lined up that particular year in 1896. A streetcar carrying a bunch of people off to one of the festivities, crossing the Point Ellis Bridge, not the one we have now, but roughly in the same spot. There was a streetcar bridge, because we had this streetcar that went around downtown and went all the way out along the gorge to where the kind of like Gorge Pavilion Park is now.
Yes.
So that was kind of where it went to. That's where it was heading when the bridge gave way.
Oh.
143 passengers were jammed onto the streetcar. It was overloaded, and the weight of it and the poor conditions of the track led to it collapsing. The streetcar, filled with people, falls into the gorge, and in the end, 55 people died. Now,
that's horrible.
Yeah, so bit of Victoria history. So I'm surprised sometimes when people haven't heard this, because it was one of like the worst. I think it still is one of the worst transit disasters to happen by some metric, at least around these parts.
Right.
And I wanted to, if you don't mind, because I'm a bit of a nerd for these things. Old newspapers.
Okay.
Fascinate me.
Yes, me too.
And there is the
history.
The British Colonist, I believe that, or no, Daily Colonist was the name of this newspaper in Victoria at the time. And it had an article on May 27th, 1896. So this is the next day. So here is, I just want to read a little bit of the Victoria newspaper from the day after.
Okay.
The headline, Victoria mourns her dead. From a city of rejoicing, our capital becomes a place of sorrow. A crowded car of holidaymakers crashes through Point Ellis Bridge with a loss of upwards of 50 men, women, and children. Energetic work on the rescuers, at the scene of disaster. So those are kind of like the quick headlines.
Mm-hmm.
And then the article begins in this quite different 1800s style. Victoria's Queen's Birthday Carnival, so auspiciously inaugurated with unallotted enjoyment for citizens and visitors, was abruptly terminated yesterday afternoon by a catastrophe so sudden, so awful, and so appalling in the loss of life entailed by it that no thought was left for aught besides. Electric car number 16, in charge of conductor Talbot and motorman Farr, was hurrying to the scene of a sham battle, freighted to its capacity and beyond with holiday makers, when in an instant of mirth, it turned into mourning, and between 50 and 60 souls were hurried into eternity. The central span of Point Ellis Bridge had again given way, precipitating the car into the waters of the Arm, where a majority of the imprisoned passengers, men, women, and little children, to whom the world had a moment before been all sunshine, were drowned before aid. Oh, wait, it's just flipped away from me. That kind of killed the moment.
We're still unpacking everything.
Yeah, sorry, where was I?
Wow.
Before aid could reach them, that was the line. The crashing timbers and ironwork of the bridge piled upon the ill-fated car as the waters received it, and doubling up, pierced it also from below, so that many were killed even before the water was reached, while the others were less merciful, held below the muddy waters. The tide was at the flood and running high by the rapidly accumulating debris. News of the calamity spread quickly, and by 3 o'clock, the heavily freighted car plunged through the bridge at exactly 10 minutes to 2. A crowd of thousands filled the streets at the approaches to the Death Trap Bridge, eager to be helpful, frantic with anxiety as to the fate of loved ones who might have been on the car, or dazed, almost stupefied for the time, by the magnitude of the disaster which had come upon the city. The hour was not without its heroes who were quick to think and act, and to these heroes, women and men, The salvation of many lives from the waters is due, as well as the winning back from death of many who had to all appearances, passed into the Shadowland. The work of the rescuers lasted through all the afternoon, and by evening, the greater number of the bodies had been recovered, although it is practically certain that yet others are still to be removed from the fatal waters. And it carries on, but
yeah, it does.
It's
wow.
Wow, they don't write newspapers like that anymore.
No, that's a novel.
Yeah,
and flash forward to now. Currently, in the way we write news stories and trying to pick through that to actually get the story.
I know, yeah, it's so filled with flowery prose.
Right.
But anyways, I just thought it was worth a moment.
Still a tragedy. Like 55 people died.
Yeah, and that was...
Here.
That was here in Victoria in 1896 on this day. This texter at 71010 says, "Good morning, Ryan and Lisa. I had heard about the devastating accident some 20 years ago. What a bummer." Yeah, that's
to coin a
for
phrase,
sure.
yes.
Yeah, and
well, you think though the population of Victoria at that time, we're talking 1896, and 55 people died, so everybody knew somebody.
Yeah,
who was on that?
It was a very small city
streetcar.
at that time. Yeah,
wild.
Anyways, that's a bit of history.
Thanks for sharing that. I mean, especially the writing. I mean, it's been so long. You know, the tragedy dims simply because we don't know anybody no one's alive that remembers these people, but still. It's an awful tragedy. And to hear the way they wrote about it 130 years ago is quite amazing as well. Because that was how we got our news. So people would sit down with the newspaper and comb through it, and they would have time to do it. There's no social media back then.
Fascinating
and there was
stuff.
no radio or TV either, I think.
Yeah. No, not at all.
Yeah.
No. Anyways, on this day in 1896. I just realized I've made us late for the news. Lisa, what's going on out there?
In Belgium, prosecutors say 4 people were killed in a crash between a train and a bus, including 2 children. 5 children also taken to hospital in serious condition. The collision happened in northern Belgium during the morning rush hour. Reports from local media suggest that the barriers at the level rail crossing were down, but the bus appeared to try to cross anyway. The U.S. military carrying out strikes against Iranian missile launch sites and boats placing mines, despite the U.S. president saying on social media that negotiations to end the war were proceeding nicely. U.S. Central Command say the strikes on day 88 of the war were done to protect troops from threats posed by Iranian forces and that they were using restraints during the ongoing ceasefire. Trump said yesterday any agreement to end the war should include a requirement for several additional countries, including Saudi Arabia and Pakistan, to join Abraham's Accords. The Accords are U.S.-brokered agreements of how Trump's first term aimed at normalizing relations with Israel. And Everlane, which bucked the fast fashion industry by promising affordable, ethically sourced, and sustainable clothing, has now been scooped up by the king of fast fashion, Shein, founded in China. Everlane had signed an agreement to be acquired by the company, according to a letter written by the brand's CEO, Alfred Chang. Everlane's majority owner has been Elle Chatterton, which also owns a significant stake in Pole and Branch, Etro and Birkenstock. Everlane didn't disclose the purchase price. Shein also declined to comment. That is your news to 7:20.
CFAX 1070 traffic and weather at 7:22, and on the roads it's pretty typical. Usual volume delays out of the West Shore. Paving on Cook Street at Finlayson. Otherwise, it's pretty normal. We could see a few scattered showers still this morning before we start to dry up into the day. Some sunshine by this afternoon, but we're starting overcast with a temperature around about 10 degrees at the moment, heading towards a high of 19, cooler by the water.
Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070. Oversleepers, catch all the highlights on the latest audio podcast at CFAX1070.com and on the free iHeartRadio app.
Well, I'm sure like many of you, I'm quite fascinated by AI, which is already here. It's not coming. It's here now, and it's shaping a lot of the ways we do things. One of the things AI is changing is shopping. What kind of direction is that headed, and what do we need to know about? Well, my next guest is studying that very thing, and he's got a paper out on this. Jan Kitzman is a professor of innovation and information systems at the University of Victoria's Peter B. Gustafson School of Business, and he's got a paper out which we want to talk about. So let's get him up on the line. How's it going?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Great to get you here. So you study AI and business, I guess, are a couple of the umbrella things you're looking into. I got a question for you. So before we get into the details of your paper, what kind of ways do you expect AI to change just our shopping kind of habits, our behavior, and the way the experience that we have?
Well, it's a good question. I think it's already changed the way that we behave online, and that to a large part includes shopping, but maybe not in a way that we can expect going forward.
Now, something you point out is that AI shopping agents could start doing shopping for us. Is that something we're heading towards?
Yeah, I think so. The interesting, I think, premise of our argument is that most of our online activity happens on various kinds of platforms, ranging from, of course, Facebook and Instagram, the social media platforms, to the big marketplaces like Amazon or entertainment places like YouTube. And much of what we do online, many of the decisions are already at least supported by AI, if not made for us by AI. Whether you think about the reels you watch, or the music you listen to, or the videos you watch on YouTube or on Netflix, those are all algorithmically determined and shown to us based on what we are most likely to enjoy.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah, the algorithm's always feeding me things. And are you saying that we're going to get towards a point where that's how our shopping will work?
Well, if you think about AI, and AI is a big category, but if you think about the way that agentic AI will allow us to query AI to fulfill our needs for us, it won't be like platforms that we know today that are heavily dependent on us as human users and our irrational decision-making, often very emotional or impulse decisions. AI will change that significantly. So think about how we are, in a way, we're driven by advertising. It's quite useful, it's quite helpful, it's quite powerful for organizations. For us, it's sometimes a little distracting, but many of the ads we see are driven by cookies, are driven by the kinds of things we've done in the past. But AI won't really be emotional. It'll be really super rational. And so many of the advertising pitches, they won't work on agentic AI. They won't work on algorithms because they're not easily fooled, or as easily fooled as we are.
Okay. Oh, but again, what you're thinking is we're heading towards AI shopping agents that'll work for us. We won't necessarily be, as humans, doing this ourselves. We'll be turning some of this shopping over to an AI, maybe in the future, where we're like, hey, do this for me. And if that's the case, advertising to the AI is not going to work like it does to us humans with our emotional impulses.
That's right. And what we can do is we can let an AI agent loose, and it might know from our calendar and our email and our past conversations, our photos. It might know a whole lot about us, so it might know more what it is we actually need at this point in our lives than a single platform would in the past. So it can go out and it can look for the things we need, and it can then conduct much of our shopping for us.
Yeah, and I understand things like milk, butter, and bread, but the wants and needs separates the emotional drive for shopping. Things like art, for example. I can't see AI buying that for me.
Yeah, it's interesting. And we might not be able to see AI doing a lot of things for us at this point, but I suppose when we deal with the kinds of choices we make today, whether it's music or movies, in the past you would have had a hard time saying, well, I don't want anybody else to choose the music that I want to listen to or the videos I watch either, because it's a very deeply personal choice. Yet we rely on it every day, all day. So I think it's something that's coming, and I'm not saying I'm a fan of it. I'm just observing this, but I think it's something that's coming our way, whether we like it or not.
So I guess one of the interesting points you make here is that this is coming our way, and I guess one of the things to note is traditional ways that we advertise and try to sway people's shopping habits won't work anymore. So this is almost as much of an informational piece for us, the people who might be shopping differently, as it is for businesses who might have to find a new way to reach people. I guess there's sort of two different audiences for the study.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think part of it will be traditional, old school, if you will, and it'll be advertising to people. But platforms and marketplaces and entertainment sites and so forth will increasingly have to optimize for algorithmic clients rather than human clients and figure out how they can position the product they want to sell so that they get picked up by AI shoppers.
Interesting stuff. Zero-click commerce, is that coming our way? Will it change the way we shop and kind of take a lot of it out of our own hands, let the AI agent do it for us? And then how do you advertise to that? How do you, as businesses, convince people to buy your product in a world where that's happening, which could be the world we're heading towards? That's interesting stuff. It's covered by my guest's latest research into AI. I've got Jan Keitzman here, Professor of Innovation and Information Systems at UVic's Peter B. Gustafson School of Business. Much appreciated. This has been fascinating. If people want to find out more, is there any place they can find your study?
Yeah, this particular piece is published at Harvard Business Review online. So if you punch in how AI is threatening platforms' revenue streams, it should take you right there.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, and much appreciated.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Right. 7:30 News next on CFAX.
From CFAX 1070.
Here's what's happening around the island.
Join Capital Bike for Spring Go By Bike Week, May 30th to June 5th. Register and find celebration stations at gobybikebc.ca. Sign up for the Walk for Alzheimer's Sunday, May 31st at Fisherman's Wharf. More info at walkforalzheimers.ca.
Get more event info at CFAX1070.com.
If it's happening, it's here.
CFAX 1070.
CFAX Victoria.
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning, 7:32 on this Tuesday, May 26th. A little wet still potentially out there with some showers for these early morning hours, but it's going to be drying up as the day goes on. Full forecast to come right now. The news begins, and here is Lisa Best.
Thank you, and good morning, Ryan. A senior Bank of Canada official says we need to rethink our approaches to education and training as more and more young people face a difficult labor market marked by low turnover and high long-term unemployment.
Nicholas Vincent, an external deputy governor at the Bank of Canada, says young people are overrepresented in the ranks of the unemployed and face challenges with being unemployed for longer. In addition to a slowing economy, Vincent pointed to structural factors, including an influx of young immigrants that intensified competition for entry-level jobs, a mismatch of young workers' skills and employers' needs, and the growth of AI. He says we need to ask how we can better prepare young people for the new realities of the job market, make it easier for those who lose their jobs to reskill quickly, and ask what role should educational institutions play. Michelle Zedekian, The Canadian Press.
BC Premier in Kananaskis again for a second day of meetings in Alberta with other Western premiers. David Eby wants to know what the real issue is that Alberta Premier Danielle Smith has moving forward with a referendum on separation.
Premier Smith got everything that she wanted from that meeting with the Prime Minister. British Columbia got nothing. And the response to that was to bring forward a referendum question about whether or not Albertans should separate from the rest of Canada. And so I don't think this is about a pipeline project. This is about something else. And the impacts on British Columbia of that referendum question are serious and important, as they are for all Canadians. And so that's why it'll be a topic at the table.
Smith says the views of BC premiers over the years have helped fuel separatism in Alberta. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe sharing his thoughts on the Alberta stay or go matter. He says he wants Alberta to stay within Canada, but he's not about to criticize the Premier and her plans for a separation plebiscite this fall. Moe says she's playing by the rules.
She's following the law. She has, 400,000 on that have suggested one question, 300 another. There's some legalities that are going to work their way through there. However, this is not a separation referendum, but her citizen initiatives legislation requires that the government move forward when those parameters are hit.
BC Premier David Eby more critical, of course, saying the vote comes at a very bad time with the continued threats from the U.S. BC Transit workers in Victoria may be parking it soon enough. They're voting on a strike mandate for the union come Thursday. Negotiations broke down last week, and Union President Stephen Baines asked what happens after the strike vote.
We've been working hard to keep this city moving. So, right at the forefront of that is our ridership. We are not looking to upset the system or bring the city to a halt. We're looking for a fair deal. And we hope that by Friday, the employer will, start reevaluating what they've put on the table, and we can finally establish some dates and, like I said, pick up where we left off.
The union says it's still open to bargaining this week if it's available. And we've lost a jazz great, saxophonist Sonny Rollins, at the age of 95.
Sonny Rollins got his first sax at age 7, an alto. He went on to be known for his work on the tenor, like this from his 1956 breakthrough record, Saxophone Colossus. Sonny Rollins loved to play, constantly reinventing and learning as a musician, but then doubting himself when he listened back later. One story is that Rollins, who played on the Rolling Stones' Waiting on a Friend, heard the song in a New York City grocery store after it came out and was wondering who did the sax solo until he realized it was him. Sonny Rollins performed for more than 50 years and died at his home in Woodstock, New York on Monday. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
And that is your news to 7:36.
CFAX 1070 wants to send you to see Monty Python's Spam-A-Lot at the Royal Theatre this August. Listen to Mornings with Ryan and Lisa on CFAX for your chance to win your way in. Details at cfax1070.com.
Your CFAX 1070 news poll question this morning. Would you use artificial intelligence to compare and select products when you're shopping online? 12% say yes, about a quarter say maybe, and 64% say no. You can vote at CFAX1070.com, also on the iHeartRadio app. And Lisa, best news time is 7:38.
That's an interesting conversation, eh?
It is. And, you know, algorithms seem to be candy now, where this is the hard test stuff coming in. I don't like that, but if it's going to streamline my shopping for basic things, maybe. I just don't like being pigeonholed into one thing. I don't like being pigeonholed in the type of music I listen to, the movies that I choose.
Yeah, I agreed. Texter's weighing in at 7:10:10. This texter, I don't know if he's being serious or not, because it could go either way. But Texter says, I tried using AI to help with grocery shopping. Now I have 14 kinds of olive oil, a Bluetooth meat thermometer, and somehow a subscription to cloud storage.
Well,
I feel like...
Welcome.
that sounds plausible. I don't know if he's joking or not. And then another texter says, good morning, Ryan and Lisa. I can think of nothing worse than some dispassionate AI drone doing my shopping for me. I love the hunt, discovery, acquisition. And then the text goes on. But
that's it. Some of us have the shopping gene.
Yeah.
We like to look.
Yeah, exactly.
So, but online, if you're just ordering something like laundry detergent, then again, what if there's a new brand that you want to try? Is it going to allow you to do that? No, you got to get the same one every time. Right?
Yeah. Interesting stuff. Yeah, exactly. I feel like there's a lot of questions there on a future me. We may be heading towards, according to my last guest, and if you missed the conversation, you can listen to the podcast, Ryan and Lisa, on any of your podcast services. It's always up after the show. Hey, stand by, because after 8 o'clock, we're going to give away another pair of tickets to see Spam-A-Lot the musical coming to the Royal Theatre, but you got to perform a Monty Python sketch for us, even just a few lines. Doesn't have to be anything crazy. Get ready. Prepare your Monty Python chops for after 8 o'clock if you want to call and win. And we're also going to call the Black Keys CFAX Summer of Rock winner in a few moments. So if you're waiting for that call, we're going to make it in just a few moments here, so stand by. We're so busy today. There's so much happening. And there's so much happening in sports, too. For hockey, Montreal Canadiens, they dropped the game last night. It was the Carolina Hurricanes 3-2 in overtime over Montreal. So the Hurricanes now lead the best-of-7 Eastern Conference final, 2-1. Game 4 goes tomorrow in Montreal. And tonight, it's the Vegas Golden Knights and the Colorado Avalanche in the Game 4. And the Knights are leading that series 3-0. They could book their ticket to the final with a win tonight. Blue Jays in action. They're aiming to snap a 2-game losing skid when they host the Miami Marlins in the midst of a set of 3 games. The Marlins won their 4th straight game last night with an 8-2 win over the Jays. The Knicks swept the Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals of the NBA with a 130-93 victory last night, so they move on. Who's going to play them? Well, the defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder will attempt to take a 3-2 lead in the NBA's Western Conference Finals when they host the San Antonio Spurs tonight. The winner of that series goes on to face the Knicks now. We know the result there. That is your sports to 741. Oh, we're moments away from talking to the winner of our Summer of Rock Black Keys contest. Stand by. It's coming. But right now, the morning show brought to you by Coastal Heat Pumps. For a comfortable home no matter the season, big savings on your heating bill. Talk to Coastal Heat Pumps. They're designed for comfort. The South Island's Elite Plus Fujitsu Air Stage dealer. We're still fairly typical on the roads. I've got no crashes, no accidents. Regular old West Shore delays, but nothing out of the ordinary there. Paving work continues on Cook Street, either side of Finlayson. And for the weather forecast, mainly cloudy to start the day. We have had the chance of scattered showers still with us, and we're still seeing the odd drop fall here and there, but it's not like a huge rain event. We're just seeing the last gasp of showers before we eventually clear up, get into some sunshine by this afternoon, highs of 19. A few clouds tonight, lows to 11. Tomorrow, sunshine, highs of 23, and a little bit of humidity in the air, so it'll feel a little warmer tomorrow with some mugginess, and the temperature's right now around 11 degrees. What's happening on the markets? Well, for Toronto, S&P TSX down 184 to start the day at 34,645. The Dow Jones started with some ups and downs. Right now, it's almost exactly where it was before. It's 0.03 points down at 50,579. But of course, we'll see where it goes from there. Canadian dollar at 72.5 cents US, which is also just about where it was yesterday.
Ryan and Lisa are ready when you are.
Good morning.
Day or night, find the highlights under latest audio at CFAX1070.com and on the free iHeartRadio app.
Okay, it is time to call a winner for our Black Keys contest for the CFAX Summer of Rock. Because we got so many of these things.
Got to answer your phone.
You got to answer the phone when we call you. So don't call us. I know that the phone's ringing. Don't call us. No. We're calling you. And this is the band that you're up for this one. Going to the phones.
Okay.
Okay. Is this Cheryl on the line?
It is.
Good morning.
Cheryl, do you remember texting the word rock? R-O-C-K.
Could have been Rick. I don't know, Cheryl.
We've had a lot of Ricks. Do you remember texting that word to 71010 at all last week?
I did. And then I realized when I looked at your contest that it's for this weekend.
Yeah, it's soon, eh? It's like this one was right away.
I know you're going to have to draw someone else because I'm gone this weekend.
You're gone this weekend.
My friend.
Cheryl's giving it up.
You're giving it up, Cheryl.
I know I have to. That's not fair to anyone else.
This is wild
that's nice
news.
of you.
I was not foreseeing this turn of events.
No.
Cheryl, very good of you.
Well, it's nice. Someone else is going to really want it.
Cheryl, where are you off to that you can't go to Vancouver?
I'm on Vancouver Island. I'm going to a women's fest with 250 women.
Oh, my gosh.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is.
You'll be rocking there.
What's that? I want to know more about the Women's Fest now. What's this all about?
This is the first time I'm going. From what I understand, there's so many things women bring to it. Lots of vendors and prizes and games. And
where's this happening?
It's in Coombs at the rodeo grounds.
Amazing.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I got sucked into it. I wasn't going to go, and then I'm like, "Holy man!"
And now when it rains, it pours. You're getting us calling you. But Cheryl, have a wonderful time. Have a wonderful time this weekend. Thank you, though, for doing the honorable thing and letting us call another winner. So we're going to do that next. But have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for being a good sport.
Thank you so much.
Have fun.
That's so fun.
Thanks.
Okay, that's Cheryl. Well, I was not expecting this. The drama here, Lisa, is
really
just insane.
Nice that she pushed it on to the next person. So we'll make another phone call.
Yeah.
Everybody, we're still in the running here for this.
We're going to do
good.
that. So I'm going to let you read
us. Because the concert is this weekend, right?
Yes, this weekend. So this is the Black Keys in Vancouver.
Let's get news out of the way. You make another phone call while I do this.
I got a call. You're going to read news.
Okay.
But hey, if you were disappointed that you heard somebody else's voice,
well,
it's not over yet. It can still be you.
Exactly.
Stand by.
Okay. The Islands Trust did not abuse process with a bylaw notice on Gabriella Island. The Supreme Court of BC now upholding the previous decision related to enforcement of Gabriella Island's land use bylaw. It stems from a case of 2 bylaw violation notices issued in relation to a property zoned large rural residential within the minimum setback area and noise and hours of operation of a home-based business after 8 at night. The petitions were dismissed in their entirety and costs awarded to the Gabriella Islands Local Trust Committee. A memo to the Prime Minister in the days following the mass shooting in Tumbler Ridge in February cautioned that sentiment was shifting from grief to questions about gun access and warning signs that may have been missed. The Privy Council office note and overall public reaction was a sense of shock and national mourning, but it advised that others warned about issues such as mental health interventions. The memo obtained by the Canadian Press under the Access to Information Act says confidence of first responders was intact after 9 people died, including the killer who took their own life. The note to Mark Carney summarized what was known about the shootings and the killer, including an analysis statement reported by media and on social media. And the head of the World Health Organization is warning that rapidly growing Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda will get worse before it gets better. There's more than 900 cases, more than 220 deaths linked to it, who Director General Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus says during a virtual briefing of those, 101 cases and 10 deaths have been confirmed linked to Ebola. At the time, within many of these communities, burials obviously are happening, but they say arguably Ebola is more contagious after death than when the person is alive. And that's your news to 7:48.
Let's do this again.
2.0.
So, I can't believe that doesn't usually happen where you call a winner and they're like, actually, I'm busy. Do somebody else. But that's
she wanted to go,
Yeah,
but
she
she's
did.
got something bigger going on in Coombs.
I love that just happened. But that just means I'm going to the phone lines again.
Okay.
Okay, so I believe I've called another name out of the hat or the container or the barrel, whatever it was. Angie, is that you?
Good morning, Ryan. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
So, Angie, do you remember texting me the word rock last week when you heard a Black Keys song?
Yes.
You do remember that, eh?
Okay.
Yes.
You
Does that mean I win? Oh, my God. I need a holiday.
You need a holiday. Well, it's this weekend. We just had another caller who couldn't go.
Angie, are you free this weekend?
Are you free this weekend?
Yes.
You're going to the show.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God.
Oh, Angie.
That is awesome. I can't believe it's so quick.
I know. You gotta make plans. But here's the thing. We've taken care of the whole thing for you. We got you accommodations at the Rosedale and Robson Suite Hotel. We've got you a flight on Helijet. And the whole thing's powered by the
With a
Sax Point
friend.
Pub in Esquimalt. And you got 2 tickets to go see the Black Keys in Vancouver this weekend.
Oh, that is so awesome. Thank you, you guys.
Your friends are already calling. Take me. Now you just got to figure out what you're going to wear.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I am so excited. I
Good.
can't believe it.
You say you need a vacation. We'll send you for a mini vacation in Vancouver.
Haven't gone for a vacation for so long.
Aw.
Oh, this is great. Thank you.
Yay,
guys.
exciting.
Hey, and Angie, thank you so much for listening. Hang on the line. I'm going to talk to you off air, okay?
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's great. I love the way this all
I'm
played out.
happy for her.
I'm glad it got. I'm glad for Cheryl. She's got some fun
She's
to do.
got a vacation.
We got Angie a
Angie's
vacation.
got a vacation.
Everybody's winning here. This is great.
This is terrific.
Well, let's take a quick break here. We're going to talk about marmots coming up because there's a fun marmot story up Island. But if you didn't win the Black Keys, don't worry. Motley Crue is this week's artist. If you hear a Motley Crue song, text us rock, and maybe you will be just like Angie there, but for Motley Crue when they come around.
Nice.
That's to come. Right now, quick break.
The CFAX 1070 Summer of Rock. All right. Win a trip to Vancouver and catch a concert from the Sax Point Pub Summer of Rock lineup. Listen to CFAX from 6 till 6.
When you hear a clip from our Artist of the Week,
Text ROCK to 71010 with your first name
to win that concert.
You'll fly with Helijet and stay at the Rosedale on Robson Suite Hotel. Brought to you by the Sax Point Pub in Esquimalt.
Stream us on the iHeartRadio app.
CFAX 1070 traffic and weather. It is 7:53. It's usual volume delays off the West Shore into Victoria. We've got no other major problems. Things are looking good. Text me at 71010 if you see anything. For the weather, a few scattered showers maybe still this morning. Then we're clearing up for the second half of the day, kind of into the afternoon, with highs eventually to hit about 19 degrees, cooler by the water. It's 11 right now.
Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
Okay, now we're heading up island where there was a missing marmot mystery to cover. And who do we talk to about marmots? We talk to Adam Taylor, always. He's the executive director of the Marmot Recovery Foundation. Usually we're talking about the efforts to bring this endangered species back from the brink, talking about, reintroducing them into the wilds of, Strathcona Park and beyond. But this one's a bit different, Adam Taylor, because you had a missing marmot, although I understand there's breaking news on this story. So why don't you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, so a few days ago now, we got just an email from a person in the public saying, I think I've got a marmot in my yard. And I have to admit, I was a little bit surprised when I opened the photos, and there was this Vancouver Island marmot in their yard, and their yard was right close to the highway in Campbell River, which is not where we want a marmot. So we went down to try and trap it, and we unfortunately we weren't successful, and the marmot moved off. We lost it for a day, and then got another email from another family not too far away, with photos of a Vancouver Island marmot, this time on the beach, which really is not where a Vancouver Island marmot is.
That is not where you expect them. They're supposed to be in the mountains.
Yeah, sea marmots are not a thing. So. But, for us, the real concern is to get to that spot. Like, it had to cross 2 highways to get to the beach. And then the spot where it was, the old island highway, was just, it's right there. So a lot of concern for this marmot, because it's not going to spend a lot of time on the beach. So 2 days of trying to trap it, and last night our veterinarian Malcolm McCady and field coordinator Kevin Gorley were able to finally trap it. And so now it is up in our facility. We're going to spend some time doing a thorough health check and make sure the marmot's all tickety-boo. But, yeah, it weighed 3.17 kilograms, so that's about 8-9 pounds. And, so it seems like he's a healthy body weight. Fur is in good shape. So really happy to get him back. And, he will in the end, we hope, go on to help with the recovery of his species. We're going to try and release him back out to the wild, but in a spot where there's other marmots.
All right, Adam, I guess we got to answer the age-old question: why did the marmot cross the road?
So part of the mystery here is we'll never know. This is a wild-born marmot. It's not tagged. It doesn't have any trackers in it whatsoever. My guess is that this is probably from Mount Washington or one of the other mountains nearby. And at about 2 years old, these marmots will leave their birth colony, and they'll go to try and find another colony to find a mate. And honestly, it's amazing they don't get lost more often. It's pretty rare that they do this thing where they end up, on the beach. But every now and then we get these odd marmots where, they end up in some really odd spot. A couple of years ago, we had a marmot camas that was found in a farm field in Arrington. And, they're just, they leave, they go to find another colony, and then they just go until they find another marmot. But of course, that's not going to happen down at sea level.
It's not going to happen when you hit the beach. Yeah. So you've caught this one again, though. This has been caught. It's been brought back up. And what a weird couple of days you had trying to hunt down a missing marmot. Why was it worth that effort? And I guess this brings us back to the fact that there aren't many of these marmots left. The populations are rebounding thanks to efforts from groups like yours. But why was it such a big deal to get this marmot back?
Yeah, well, and that's exactly it. There's 420 marmots total, and, most of those are still quite young. So this is an adult marmot that's really proved that he has what it takes to survive in the wild. And so by releasing him back to a colony where there's other marmots, he can really make a big difference for the future of his species. And I mentioned Camas before. Camas is now we released him to a colony with a single female marmot, and the two of them now have pups or had pups last year. They hibernated together for the last couple of years. They're doing really well and really contributing to the future of this species. So this is our hope for this marmot too. It's better for him, but it's also better for his species that he gets back to the mountains. We'll pick a spot where there's an available mate for him, and he has a good chance to settle in. And then it's up to him to breed. But we're really hopeful that he's demonstrated he's a pretty wily, tough marmot. So I'm pretty hopeful he'll do well.
That's great. So if you had heard the story of one of these wild Vancouver Island marmots, these endangered marmots spotted near the highway in Campbell River, and then again, it turns out on the beach, the news is the Marmot Recovery Foundation safely trapped that little critter, and he's on his way to, get back where he needs to be. Marmot Recovery Foundation Executive Director Adam Taylor, always love talking to you, and I'm glad the story had a happy ending.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Pleasure.
All right. Wow. We'll take a break. We've got the 8 o'clock news coming up. We're going to give away tickets to Spam-A-Lot coming to the Royal Theatre in Victoria in August. You got to perform for us a little bit of something Monty Python, though. That's coming up after the news.
CFAX Victoria,
an iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
it's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It's 8:01 on Tuesday, May 26th. We're looking at a few scattered showers still possible this morning before we clear up into some sunshine by this afternoon. That's what's ahead of you today. The full forecast to come. Right now, the news begins, and here is Lisa Best.
Good morning. News of a drug bust in Saanich. A search warrant done May 15th at a home in the 400 block of Dublin Road. At the same time, search warrant on a storage locker linked to the investigation. Police end up seizing about 3 kilograms of what's believed to be fentanyl, cocaine, and methamphetamine, along with 10 liters of GHB. The estimated street value, about $55,000. Also, $25,000 worth of stolen property was recovered, including heat pumps, air conditioners, generators, even lawnmowers. 2 people were arrested at the time and then later released. A South Korean submarine is currently docked in the waters off CFAX Guaymalta. Seoul makes its case to supply Canada with next-generation submarines. Canada looking to buy 12 of them. The KSS-3 vessels here for joint exercises with Canadian and allied forces, and also, of course, looking to woo Ottawa into making the purchase with them. Here's Maritime Forces Pacific Commander Rear Admiral David Patchell.
One of our officers, who, as she left the Korean ship, was asked, "What did you learn?" And she said, "Canada needs new submarines."
The company Hanwha Defence Canada Managing Director and President Glenn Copeland says the timing is good, with Ottawa expected to announce the winning bid by the end of next month.
There's something we have going for us right now. Canada's asked for a very significant economic package to go with these submarines, which we think we have met the mark on that one. We've hit some very good industrial capabilities that we're going to deliver to Canada, and they've also asked for speed of delivery.
The company is competing against a bid involving Germany and Norway for a multi-billion-dollar contract to replace our aging submarine fleet. The 9 Greater Victoria School Board trustees who lost their position last year are expected to be reinstated on Monday. The province made the call as the judicial review was just about to begin. This after the Education Ministry failed to disclose text messages it was ordered to hand over months ago. Education Minister Lisa Bear says the 3 government orders that removed the trustees of District 61 have now been quashed. Bear says she thinks she'll be able to work with the returning trustees.
They are professional trustees. I'm a professional minister. I know we're going to continue to do the important work for the ministry or for the district. We all need to focus on what is best for students.
Provincially appointed lone member Sherry Bell has been running the local school board since the 9 lost their job last year. Conservative leadership hopeful Carrie Lynn Finlay says she hasn't heard from Elections Canada about a potential investigation into her last federal election campaign. She's denied any wrongdoing and thanked the party for letting her name stand for the leadership.
If there is a formal investigation, then my understanding is that the subject of that investigation must be notified. Again, this has not occurred. The allegations are completely false and untrue. LEOC and the board correctly ruled last Friday to keep my name on the ballot, despite some efforts to do otherwise.
Finlay made the statement during a brief news conference in front of the BC legislature yesterday, flanked by 5 MLAs who support her. She didn't take any questions. And Vancouver police are trying to track down a mystery, or get to the bottom of it anyway. They say tiny pollen samples may be providing a lead in a nearly 4-year-old mystery involving unidentified human remains found in English Bay. Vancouver Police Sergeant Adam Donaldson says the body was discovered in September of 2022.
About a kilometer off Spanish Banks, a tugboat crew was working. They found the body of a woman in the water. She was with an inflatable kayak. She had some personal items on her, some candy, some insulin, a backpack, but absolutely no identification.
Investigators say testing on her personal items suggests the woman likely spent time in the Pacific Northwest between Seattle and Portland before her death. Police now working with authorities stateside and hoping new public appeals generate some fresh leads. That's your news to 8:06. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question. We're asking, would you use AI to compare and select products when you're shopping online? Currently, 15% say yes, 21% maybe, and the majority, 63%, say no. You can vote at CFAX1070.com or the iHeartRadio app. And Lisa, best your news time is 8:07.
Thank you, Lisa, and good morning. Get ready to give us your best Monty Python, because we're going to open up the phone lines in just a few moments.
Excellent.
If you'll do it, if I randomly take your call at 250-386-1161 and put you on the radio, and you give us some kind of Monty Python sketch.
Think shrubbery, think knee.
You could do anything. Right. What we'll do is give you a pair of tickets to see Spam-A-Lot, which is based on Monty Python and the Holy Grail. It's this Tony Award-winning musical coming to Victoria at the Royal Theatre in August. So
Very
that's
good.
coming up. Get ready. Prepare yourself and your sketch. That's to come.
That's your backstory.
Yeah. That's all coming up. But first, let's get to the sports. I will tell you when the phone lines are open in moments. Don't worry. For sports, let's talk soccer for a second because we've got, of course, the World Cup about to happen. What's going on with Canada's team? Well, Canada's men's soccer team is missing a crucial player at a pre-World Cup training camp going on in Charlotte, North Carolina this week. And head coach Jesse Marsch, speaking to the media, says Bayern Munich star Alphonso Davies is going to stay in Germany to recover from a hamstring injury before joining the team next week.
And in the end, what we both want is for Alphonso to be strong and healthy and be available for the biggest matches for both Bayern and for us. Unfortunately, over the last year plus, it hasn't gone that way, but we're all working together, to try to help that situation improve, and for most importantly for Alphonso.
Marsch says it's unlikely Davies will be ready to play in Canada's first game of the tournament against Bosnia-Herzegovina, which is June 12th. In hockey, the Carolina Hurricanes pushed past the Montreal Canadiens 3-2 in overtime last night to grab a 2-1 lead in the Eastern Conference Final. Montreal head coach Martin St. Louis says he needs more from his group against this battle-tested opponent.
There's always learning and failure. We lost tonight. We'll learn from it. That team over there is a good team, very mature. I don't know if we can match their maturity, but we're going to have to elevate that.
Game 4 of the Best of 7 series goes tomorrow at the Bell Center. What else is going on? Well, the Vegas Golden Knights can advance to the Stanley Cup Final with a win tonight at home against the Colorado Avalanche. The Knights lead the Best of 7 Western Conference Final 3-0. In the NBA playoffs, the Knicks swept the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals with a 130-93 victory last night. So New York Knicks will face either the Oklahoma City Thunder or the San Antonio Spurs. Where's that one at? Well, the defending champion Thunder will attempt to take a 3-2 lead in the NBA's Western Conference Finals when they host the San Antonio Spurs tonight. That game to come. All right, it's 8:10. We're going to take a break. We got your traffic and weather coming up. We got your stock numbers. And then we're going to hear somebody out there perform a little bit of Monty Python for us for tickets to see Spam-A-Lot. I'm opening up the phone lines now. 250-386-1161. Give us a call. I'm going to randomly select one of you. And if you'll give us a little Monty Python, you'll walk home with some tickets. We're moments away from hearing a lucky listener perform a little Monty Python for us. But before we get to that, let's take a look at what's happening with traffic and weather. Well, not a whole lot. Nothing unusual, at least. Usual volume delays out of the West Shore. I have heard that there might be a small collision on the Veterans Memorial Parkway just before you kind of get to the Trans-Canada Highway. So this is heading northbound. I'm not sure if it's a huge deal, though. If you are seeing a fender bender there, again, Veterans Memorial Parkway, northbound just before the Trans-Canada Highway, let me know at 71010. But it's the only kind of blip I see. Paving work on Cook Street again. It's the paving at Finlayson. It's been what it's been for the last little while. It's continuing again today and all this week. In the weather forecast, scattered showers still possible this morning. Then we are going to clear up into the afternoon and get to a high of 19 degrees, cooler by the water. A few clouds overnight, lows to 11. Tomorrow, you're looking at sunshine, highs of 23. As always, cooler by the water. But humidity kind of in the air tomorrow, making it feel a little muggy, a humidex of 25. The rest of the week is looking mostly sunny, a few clouds here and there. Maybe not quite as warm as tomorrow. It could cool off just a little bit, but still temperatures in the 20-degree range. Mix of sun and cloud right through the rest of the week and the weekend. Right now, the temperatures in some places, slightly damp conditions. It's 11 degrees. On the markets in Toronto, S&P TSX is down 206 to 34,624. The Dow in New York is down 94 to 50,485. Canadian dollar at 72.4 cents US, which is virtually unchanged from yesterday, maybe down the slightest bit. And that's the stock market.
The best way to start an island morning. Ryan and Lisa on CFAX 1070.
The Tony Award-winning musical Spam-A-Lot coming to Victoria's Royal Theatre in August, and we're sending listeners to this show all this week, but we're making you work for it.
A little bit.
You've got to perform a little bit of a Monty Python sketch for us to win, and Chris is the random caller I just selected. I got you on during the break there. Chris, how you doing?
Pretty good now.
Chris, good. Are you a Monty Python fan?
Very much.
Very much so.
Okay.
So this was no work for you, I'm assuming, to prepare a sketch for us here.
Well, it's a bit of an earworm for some people, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I love it.
Oh, well, let's without further ado, let you go for it. Give us what you got, Chris.
All right. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day, and we won't go further than that.
Because it does get a little bit questionable at times, so I'm really pleased with where you decided to cut that. But Chris,
it's a family show.
That is fantastic. When I was in high school, I auditioned for the High School Musical.
Yeah.
And that's the song that's the song I sung as my audition.
Did they stop you down or let you go?
I'm surprised I got in. With that choice. But anyways, Chris, congratulations. You're going to see Spam-A-Lot.
Oh, I'm so looking forward to it.
That's fantastic news. Thanks for being a good sport and performing for us.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to take your information off the air and make sure you get your tickets. But don't worry, we're doing this all this week. Kind of different times of the show, so you got to listen. But tomorrow, another chance to win and another chance for you to give us your best Monty Python. Right now, it's 8:15. Here are the headlines with Lisa.
Western and Northern Premiers meeting again today, which could be a spicy final day of meetings for the two-day get-together in Kananaskis, Alberta. This comes less than a week after Alberta's Premier announced that referendum question that will ask Albertans if they want to remain part of Canada or start the process to hold a binding referendum on separation. BC Premier David Eby told the media he's asking why the Premiers are meeting in Kananaskis, Alberta, when the host Premier wants to test separation. Eby says testing the bonds that hold Canada together empowers people who would, quote, break our country and sell it for the parts. Equifax Canada says insolvency volumes have risen to the highest level since 2009. The firm's first quarter report on consumer credit trends says systemic risks persist even while Canadians are staying financially disciplined to cope with economic challenges. Insolvency volumes for the quarter were up nearly 19% year over year as homeowners come under increasingly financial strain. Homeowner insolvency volumes rose more than 11% from the fourth quarter of last year. And NASA is set to give an update today about its plans to build a moon base. In a statement, the agency says it intends to share moon-based plans and highlight progress towards a sustained presence on the lunar surface. NASA is building off the success of the recent Artemis 2 mission around the moon with its ambitious plan to create a permanent base. And that is your CFAX News to 8:16. Oh, we're still on the line with Chris. I think you guys are going through some of the Spam-A-Lot lines, huh?
Yeah, there we go. We were just quoting Monty Python. Exactly. But hey, congratulations to Chris for being our winner. Your chance to win tomorrow. Give us a call and perform. Hey. But next, okay, we've got a lot of crazy things going on in the news this week we have to unpack, so let's get serious for a second. This Victoria School Board thing yesterday, I think, shocked a lot of people when the BC government suddenly announced they were reinstating the Greater Victoria School Board, whom they had fired previously. And there's a lot to unpack here, so we're going to do that in a few moments, let you know what we know so far, but also get a reaction from the BC Conservative Party, who are weighing in on this. So that's all next. CFAX 1070 traffic and weather. By the way, the whole morning show brought to you by Coastal Heat Pumps for a comfortable home no matter the season. Big savings on your heating bill. Talk to Coastal Heat Pumps. Designed for comfort, the South Island's Elite Plus Fujitsu Airstage dealer. On the roads, I do have a report of a fender bender, Veterans Memorial Parkway northbound, just before you hit the Trans-Canada Highway. I don't know if this is causing a huge backup, but let me know at 71010 if you see anything there. Is there a collision? Veterans Memorial Parkway, just by the Trans-Canada Highway, just south of it. That's the only real blip we got this morning. Otherwise, it's just volume delays for the BC ferries, no sailing waits. And for the weather, scattered showers still with us this morning, but we're going to get into a clearing sky, maybe some sunshine by this afternoon. Highs eventually to hit 19 degrees right now. In a little bit of rain in some parts, we're at 11 degrees.
Let's get started.
Start your day informed and entertained. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
It was a sudden twist in the School District 61 school board dismissal story. The province yesterday reversing the orders that resulted in the firing of the Greater Victoria School Board trustees. This is the news that suddenly emerged yesterday. BC's Education Minister explaining the decision came out of her staff failing to provide all of the documents required to a court case that was to begin yesterday. I guess, some of the pretrial stuff had already been going on, where the school trustees were, taking the government to court over their firing, and that was all about to play out. And in all of that, apparently, a failure to provide some of the documents on the BC government side. That's what we heard. Compromising the fairness of the judicial review of the dismissal. The BC Civil Liberties Association, they were an intervener in the case, and they spoke to us yesterday. They say the omitted records included texts between ministry officials, the Victoria Police Department, and the independent advisor. We at CFAX are working independently to verify the content of the texts, but for now we can tell you that Vic PD tells us it's aware of the content of the messages. And they say while officers are entitled to their personal views, Vic PD deems the exchanges unprofessional in nature and that they do not reflect the views of the department. So we don't know what's in the text so far, but Vic PD says whatever it was, they deem unprofessional in nature. Text that involved somebody at the Victoria Police Department, ministry officials, and the independent advisor. So that's sort of where the story sits right now. We're still trying to unpack this. So here weighing in next, Lynn Block is a conservative opposition critic for education on the line to weigh in on the developing story. Thank you so much for joining us. Hello.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a lot to unpack, eh?
Well, it's disheartening to hear that the government didn't hand in all the documents requested by the court order. And why didn't they? Was it somebody forgot, negligence, incompetence? I don't know. But that should have been very first in their decision-making there.
Yeah. What was your first reaction when you heard this yesterday?
Disappointing, again. The reality is that you cannot make informed decisions if you do not have all the correct information and the facts.
Now, you were supportive of the province dismissing the board back when it first happened, or were you? What was your take originally when this took place?
My caucus and I, we supported the firing initially because the trustees failed to deliver a workable safety plan. And that was after 3 iterations and help by Kevin Godden, the retired superintendent from Abbotsford, helping out. And that was all requested by the education minister. She did not like any of the 3 workable safety plans that were to replace the school police liaison officers.
But, in general, you were in favor of the school police liaison officers, and you probably were, I guess, in favor of the direction the government had gone before. So does this, I guess, back to your original comment that this is disappointing, having the BC government now kind of back down and reinstate the school board. Would you have preferred to see the government, fight a little harder or not back down so easily here?
Well, here's what I'd like the audience to know. There are school police liaison officers throughout the province in practically all of the school districts. So what we don't have right now is a province-wide framework from the government that oversees school police liaison officers, both RCMP and policemen, regarding processes or complaints or issues. So that's something that I think would be very beneficial, so that everybody can refer to it as the template.
So if there was just kind of like, here is the way we do things in BC, regardless of where you are, we don't have anything like that right now.
Well, not consistent. No, we don't. And the point being, again, that the education minister then asked for a workable safety plan to replace getting rid of the school police liaison officers. And even after 3 tries, they were not successful. So that's when she fired them.
Yeah. And now reinstated, which I guess there's still some questions about how that'll look, and also what the costs could be to the province. Do you have any sense of that yet?
That's a really good question. I have absolutely no idea. There's no transparency on costs in this government right now, in anything, education or anything. I could talk for an hour on that, but I won't. Let me go back to that.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed because we now are in a state of limbo, in the sense that you've got the Teachers Association and the Parents Association not supporting the firing. However, you've got the majority of parents and even the First Nations who did support the firing. So where does that leave everybody? In sort of limbo. There's no resolution, except that we don't know what went on. We didn't know the processes. We didn't know how the decisions were made. For me, I personally feel that it's really important to make sure that everybody knows the facts. Be transparent.
What consequences would you like to see come out of all of this?
I would love to see a province-wide framework for school police liaison. That's a given, so that everybody knows the process is in place. That's number one. Number two is, I'd like it that the school trustees in Victoria and throughout the province, and the BC School Trustees Association, I talked about that the other day, that they are in agreement. We agree on the focus should be on students' performances, students making sure that they reach their potential. Student outcomes are excellent, and that they are learning in safe, supportive environments. That's what we focus on as a school trustee. I was a school trustee. Also, fiscal responsibility, making sure the money is spent where it needs to be spent. So, and the last thing, and which is also important, we have to listen to the parents, to the students, to our constituents when we are a school trustee, right? So I think for in the future, the school trustees in School District 61 need to listen to the parents, the constituents, the teachers, as well as the students. They are in a trusting position. They are entrusted with these students. Let's focus on what's really important: literacy, numeracy, safety.
Lynn Block, Conservative Opposition Critic for Education, on the line with us as we get reactions to this developing story yesterday, the sudden twist in the School District 61 school board dismissal story, as the province is reinstating them after what sounds like a technicality about disclosing text messages to the court case that was about to begin into all of this. Wild stuff, and we appreciate your weighing in today.
Thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I wish that it gets to be focused on the students moving forward.
That's a good place to leave it for sure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, I'm sure that's a story we will continue to follow today. There's still a lot to digest here and figure out. So stay tuned for continuing coverage on CFAX. Right now, though, a break for the 8:30 news.
The Whole Home Show with Tony Joe.
Everyone wants to know about real estate. Is the market going up or down? Time to buy or sell? How can government programs and policies affect you? Hear from local experts on topics like appraisal, inspection, investment, and others on how to maximize your real estate sale.
Providing info on everything you needed to know about real estate. The Whole Home Show with Tony Joe. Saturdays at noon on CFAX 1070. CFAX Victoria.
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
It's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning. It's 8:30 on Tuesday, May 26th. There'll maybe a few showers are possible this morning before we clear up and get into some sunshine, or at least, some sunshine later this afternoon. We'll get you a full forecast in a moment. I don't want to overpromise sun, but, some sun might be coming at us today.
Because we've been saying it.
Yeah.
And no, it's not happening.
It's overcast right now, but
it's
anyways.
coming.
What's going on in the news? Here's Lisa Best.
Some sun in Esquimalt Harbor, you could call it courting, is going on between a South Korea flagship submarine that's parked here as part of the country's efforts to secure Canada's next major submarine contract. Hanwha Defence Canada Managing Director and President Glenn Copeland says this submarine checks off all of the boxes for Canada's requirements.
We can deliver the first one by 2032 and 4 of them by 2035. So when you put it in that respect, saying those are the two major requirements for Canada, we feel very good about our chances.
Canada looking to pick up about a dozen submarines from whoever is the best bidder. $60 billion on the line here. Canadian and South Korean officials say the visit also highlights the growing military cooperation between our two countries. BC Premier David Eby looking to cooperate, but he says he's wondering why Western Canada premiers are actually meeting in Kananaskis, Alberta to talk cooperation when the host premier wants to test separation. Eby told reporters that the fall referendum planned in October comes at a very bad time.
To say that this is the worst time to begin testing the bonds that hold this country together is a significant understatement. It threatens our national economy. It empowers the people who would break our country up and sell us for parts.
Alberta Premier Danielle Smith announced last week that an October referendum question will ask Albertans if they want to remain part of Canada or start the process to hold a binding referendum on separation. Police in Vancouver say pollen may help pinpoint the last location of a woman whose body was found in the waters off Vancouver a few years back. She was discovered in September of 2022 by a tugboat crew with an inflatable kayak nearby and candy and insulin in her backpack, but no identification. Vancouver Police Sergeant Anton Schomburg says forensic testing of that pollen at a U.S. Customs and Border Protection lab on the woman's belongings has narrowed down that she came from the Seattle or Portland areas before her body was found.
They can analyze grains of pollen found on most surfaces and provide a geographical location of origin for that pollen.
Well, police have released a video about the findings. They'll be holding a news conference today with Seattle police to try to identify someone who may know this woman or tweak someone's memory on the situation. As the Ebola virus spreads in Central Africa, we're hearing from the World Health Organization the virus spreading is quickly. 10 countries may be impacted, and it's likely the cause of some 200 deaths now.
The Director General saying despite a scramble to curb the spread, quote, the epidemic is outpacing us. Doctors suspect more than 900 people have already been infected. At least 10 African nations bordering the Democratic Republic of the Congo warned they now have an elevated transmission risk.
The U.S. president is spending part of the day at Walter Reed National Medical Center for a dental and medical evaluation.
President Trump traveled to Walter Reed National Military Medical Center in Maryland today for what the White House called his routine annual dental and medical assessments. This marks his third visit to the medical center in 13 months. He had a physical in April 2025 and went back for a follow-up appointment in October, which the White House later said included a CT scan to assess his cardiovascular and abdominal health. His doctor said at the time the imaging was, quote, perfectly normal, and the president remains in, quote, excellent health. It's also the third visit to the dentist in 5 months for the president, who turns 80 next month. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
Iran now warning retaliation against U.S. airstrikes, calling Monday's attack a gross violation of the ceasefire agreement. The strike, the Pentagon called defensive, coming amid days of mixed signals about ongoing peace talks. The U.S. president now advising negotiators not to rush, saying it will only be a great deal or no deal at all.
President Trump again taking social media, saying Iran's enriched uranium will either be turned over to the U.S. or to a third party and destroyed. But I have to say, Iran has repeatedly ruled out concessions on its nuclear program. And today, Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Mujtaba Khamenei saying on his Telegram channel, the Gulf powers will no longer be a shield for U.S. bases and the U.S. will no longer have a safe haven in the region.
This as the Strait of Hormuz remains essentially closed still. That's your news to 8:35. Your CFAX 1070 news poll question. We're asking, would you use AI to help do your online shopping, selecting products, comparing? 15% say yes, 22% maybe, the majority, 63% say no. You can vote at CFAX1070.com. Also in the iHeartRadio app. I'm Lisa Best, your news time, 8:37.
Thank you, Lisa. Good morning. It is maybe a little wet still out there. We have a few showers dissipating before we clear into a sunnier afternoon. Mix of sun and cloud for today. Highs of 19. A little cooler by the water. A few clouds tonight. Lows down to 11. And I'll tell you more about the forecast in just a moment. Right now, we'll get into the sports where we have the Montreal Canadiens now in a bit of a hole. The Carolina Hurricanes pushed past Montreal 3-2 in overtime to grab a 2-1 lead in the Eastern Conference Final last night. Game 4 of that best-of-7 series goes tomorrow back at the Bell Center. Tonight, the Vegas Golden Knights could advance to the Stanley Cup Final with a win at home against the Colorado Avalanche. That's because Vegas is leading that best-of-7 Western Conference Final 3-0. And unbeaten Canada will play its final preliminary round game today at the World Men's Hockey Championship in Switzerland. Canada, with 5 regulation wins and an overtime win, plays Czechia, which has 4 wins, an overtime loss, and a regulation loss. Canada leads the 8-team Group B standings, and the quarterfinals get underway on Thursday. Toronto Blue Jays in action last night. They lost 8-2 to the Miami Marlins, and those two teams will go at it again today. The defending champion Oklahoma City Thunder in action tonight with the NBA's Western Conference Finals versus San Antonio tied up at 2 games apiece. The winner of this one goes on to face the New York Knicks in the finals. The Knicks swept the Cleveland Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals with a 130-93 victory last night. And in soccer, Canada's top men's soccer players are all assembling in Charlotte, North Carolina this week for a final training camp ahead of the summer's World Cup. Head coach Jesse March says the group is young, athletic, and has a clear identity.
There's no reason why we can't have high expectations for ourselves. So calmly, effectively, in a disciplined way, we're going to make sure that we're ready for whatever challenges come our way. And we're really excited about that. We're really excited about our group.
But he did talk about the fact that Bayern Munich star Alphonso Davies he's not there. He's staying in Germany to recover from a hamstring injury before joining the team next week. And March says it's very unlikely Davies will be ready to play in Canada's first game of the tournament, which is against Bosnia-Herzegovina on June the 12th. That's your CFAX Sports to 8:39. CFAX Morning Show brought to you by Bluebird Cabs. Need a cab? Download the new Bluebird Cabs app at Bluebird Cabs Ltd. They're proudly local and Canadian owned and run since 1946. On the roads, I haven't heard a thing about what sounded like a fender bender on Millstream or right around the Trans-Canada Highway, just south of the highway. If you see anything, let me know at 71010, but nobody's mentioned it since I first heard a report, so maybe it's just all cleared up. If you see otherwise, let me know. Again, Millstream, just south of the Trans-Canada Highway. It was the only blip on the roads when it came to crashes that I'd heard of. We do have the paving back on Cook Street, either side of Finlayson, so that's slowing things up again today, and that's all this week. For the weather, a few scattered showers still may be with us this morning, then we clear into the afternoon. Highs of 19, a little cooler by the water, a few clouds tonight, lows to 11. Tomorrow, sunshine, a high of 23, except feeling a little muggier in some parts if you're getting away from the coast. We have a humidex of 25 tomorrow. Sunshine for Thursday, and then a mix of sun and cloud for Friday and the weekend, with temperatures maybe cooling off just a little bit heading into the weekend, but still around about 20 degrees as a high. Right now, what are the temperatures? What are we seeing? We got in Colwood, 10 degrees by the water. At the University of Victoria, it is 11 degrees. On the markets, S&P TSX dropping today, down 207 points this hour to 34,623. The Dow in New York also down 91 points to 50,488. The Canadian dollar is at 72.4 cents U.S., which is down just a tiny fraction from yesterday's close.
It's all here. News, weather, traffic, and community events. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
I've been waiting for a chance to talk about this because yesterday I didn't get a moment to discuss the submarine that's visiting us, this Korean submarine. Over the weekend, my social media feeds got filled with people taking pictures of this thing.
It's pretty cool.
Because there was the Swiftsure yacht race, of course, that was going off across the water, so everybody's taking pictures of that, and then all of a sudden, there's this
what is that?
Cool-looking submarine that emerges and sails into Esquimalt Harbor and to the base at CFB Esquimalt. We, of course, know this is a visiting Korean submarine, South Korean submarine, here for some exercises and a visit. It also just happens that this particular submarine could be the type of submarines Canada's government chooses to acquire.
Right. So there's a bit of woo pitching here, military style.
Yeah.
Saying, you park it in your driveway, see if it fits the garage.
Is this a little bit of a sales tour?
How does it look in the harbor?
And we've got this option. The Canadian government has apparently shortlisted either this one or a German-Norwegian build.
Right.
So we got this decision.
So it's Hanwha, the other one.
Yeah. So which one could it be? And what is the context behind this? Behind Canada as a submarine nation. Why do we need these things? What is our current status? I mean, we know we've got submarines, but they're not always working. In fact, they've been kind of troublesome. These old British diesel electric ones we bought a long time ago now. And
a little long in the tooth.
Took a long time to get working, and they've had a bit of a troubled past. So anyways, where are we at when it comes to submarines as a country as we face this decision?
Right.
Which could have big impact here. We were speaking to one of Canada's top Navy officials, Admiral Angus Topshee. He was just on a week ago, and he was talking about how once we make this decision, there could be a bunch of development at CFB Esquimalt.
That's right.
To continue making this a hub for submarines. The West Coast here could be like where the maintenance stuff is and all of that. So this all has big implications here as well as for us as a country and for our military. So here's what we're going to do. A professor of military history at the University of Victoria, David Zimmerman, is going to join us in a moment. He's going to give us some perspective on all of this and kind of just give us the background to where we're heading as we look at this future.
Sounds good.
That's next. Right now, here are the headlines with Lisa.
A majority of MPs voting down that Conservative motion yesterday that called for the federal government to protect private property from First Nation claims. The motion stemmed from a 2025 BC Supreme Court that confirmed Cowichan tribes on Vancouver Island hold Aboriginal title for about 300 hectares of land in Richmond, BC. The ruling led to questions about Aboriginal title and private property rights coexisting. Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre and his party have seized on the uncertainty created by the decision and have been calling on the federal government to take action now for weeks. Canada's Western Premier is wrapping up 2 days of meetings near Calgary today in Kananaskis, ending a debate dominated by the issue of separation. That firmly on the table today, especially for BC Premier David Eby. He says he's opening the meeting with some caustic barbs over each other's motives, the other being Alberta Premier Danielle Smith. Eby wonders why premiers are meeting to try to build things while Smith is pushing the envelope to blow it apart. Smith, in turn, says if Albertans are warming to separation, it's because of policies from Eby and previous BC premiers that have sabotaged Alberta's efforts to get oil to market. So the spat continues. And CFAX says insolvency volumes in Canada hit its highest level since 2009 amid strains among home ownership. The Consumer Credit Reporting Agency's first quarter market pulse report on consumer credit trends says systemic risks persist even as Canadians remain financially disciplined. Insolvency volumes for the quarter were up close to 19% year over year, indicating that many consumers have reached a financial inflection point. That's your news to 8:46.
All right, let's talk about this South Korean submarine visit to our waters here and what Canada's decision is about acquiring submarines into the future. We're going to get into that in just a moment, but first to the traffic and weather. That's next.
From CFAX 1070.
Here's what's happening around the island. Join Capital Bike for Spring Go By Bike Week, May 30th to June 5th. Register and find celebration stations at gobybikebc.ca. Sign up for the Walk for Alzheimer's Sunday, May 31st at Fisherman's Wharf. More info at walkforalzheimers.ca. Get more event info at CFAX1070.com.
If it's happening, it's here.
CFAX 1070.
CFAX 1070 traffic and weather. It is 8:49. No crashes or accidents, I think. Again, this possible thing on Millstream just south of the Trans-Canada Highway, but nobody's texting me about it, so I'm assuming that means it's gone. Hopefully I'm not leading you astray. There was a fender bender there earlier today, causing a bit of a backup, but nothing too major. The paving work continues on Cook Street, either side of Finlayson, and that's really it as far as problems. It's otherwise just volume delays today. And for BC Ferries, no sailing waits. 9 o'clock is about to go, and there's still room left for vehicles. For the weather, once we get through this small chance of scattered showers persisting into these morning hours, we will clear up in the afternoon. Highs of 19, a little cooler by the water. A few clouds tonight, lows to 11. Then tomorrow, sunshine with us, highs of 23, and a bit of mugginess. So a humidex of 25, feeling like 25 in the mugginess. Otherwise, a high of 23, cooler by the water for tomorrow.
Don't attempt your morning commute without us. Ryan and Lisa, mornings on CFAX 1070.
Let's talk about this submarine and the fact that Canada is about to decide on 12 submarines. We want to buy 12 of them. We got a budget of about $25 billion for this. Could it be the submarine that we've seen in harbor at CFB Esquimalt over the last few days, or could it be the German-Norwegian build? That's sort of where we're at. But here to give us a little context and talk more about this, on the line with us, I've got a professor of military history at the University of Victoria who's following this closely. David Zimmerman is here, and oddly enough, he's actually on a boat right now. He's on a BC ferry. David, how you doing?
Well, not quite on board, but I will be in 5 seconds.
You're hands-free driving onto a BC ferry as we speak.
I am, but I have to say, this is a really big moment in Canadian naval history because the government is very, very serious about ordering these 12 submarines, and they have to make a decision. This has been a difficult thing for the Carney government with major defense appropriations, and that is to make sure that they actually make a decision, one that's going to be a politically difficult one for them to do.
Yeah, what's at stake here as far as the politics of this and in that decision between Germany and South Korea? There's two different directions we're facing here.
Well, they have a choice to make between two submarines. They're somewhat similar, and they're both conventionally powered. Basically, they use diesels on the surface and to charge their batteries. And then underwater, they operate with batteries or by snorkel with their diesel engines. So in that sense, they're very similar boats with very similar capabilities. But there are some important differences between the two designs. The Korean vessel, which arrived at Esquimalt, has an additional weapon system called basically a vertical launch or tube launch missile system, which gives it more capability. It's bigger than the European one. It's also, clearly it has great range because it just traversed the Pacific. It did stop in Hawaii, but it has that capability which the Canadian Navy of the Pacific really wants. The West German Norwegian one is a bit smaller. But it does operate with NATO navies because there's some of these vessels already in existence. And they, by being a bit smaller, they can operate in inshore waters a bit more easily. And there may be just a little bit in those conditions more stealthy.
So there's kind of pros and cons to both. It's not a slam dunk either way.
There isn't. If it had been a slam dunk either way, the government wouldn't have had such a difficult decision. But what it's become is a somewhat political decision. Do they insult Europeans or do they insult South Koreans? And the thing is that right now they really do need to make a decision. It has to go one way or the other. And of course, this is also in the backdrop of the decision of what jet fighter to buy. Are they going to go through with the F-35 or are they going to go with the Swedish aircraft to make up the additional aircraft which they haven't yet purchased? And so it's a very interesting time for the armed forces, but also for the government, who are determined to dramatically increase our military capabilities.
Back to the submarines. So we're faced with this decision. We're expecting it soon. Give us a sense of where we're at already and kind of where we've come from when it comes to being a submarine nation.
Well, Canada has operated submarines in its Navy pretty constantly since the 1960s. There were most of the vessels, the O-class vessels, were based out of Halifax, but there was in the 60s and 70s a training vessel, ex-American conventional submarine operating on the Pacific coast. Then Canada bought these 4 used British submarines to replace the old O-boats, as they were called. And they have been nothing but, I think, a nightmare from almost day one. It was a very ill-considered purpose made to save money at the time, but we didn't get cutting-edge vessels. They weren't in the best shape, and they've been a maintenance nightmare ever since. So right now we have 4, and only 1 is fully operational, and that's been about average. They operate on both coasts, but in fact, mainly on the Pacific coast, which is also where they've been doing most of the maintenance on those vessels. But these vessels are very old now, they're getting decrepit, and they absolutely have to be replaced.
It's funny you mentioned BC and sort of the Pacific coast being the sort of like I don't know, the heart of this program. It sounds like they're continuing that. We were talking to Vice Admiral Angus Topshee on the program a little while ago just about military procurement in general, and he mentioned that once we make this submarine decision, he's expecting there to be a bunch of construction around CFB Esquimalt to create new maintenance facilities for new submarines. It sounds like we're going to continue being sort of that home of these submarines.
Well, certainly half of them. I mean, if they actually buy 12, and that's an extraordinary number, then if they really do it, it shows a real commitment to furthering our defense capabilities. Then there'll be approximately half based here and approximately half based in Halifax. Now, that combined with the already ongoing renovations to CFB Esquimalt to accommodate the new destroyers, which are going to be much larger than the current frigates, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar investments that are going to be made in CFB Esquimalt. And that's a pretty big deal. It'll be certainly very good for the economy, and we'll see also a lot more sailors because, I mean, right now they only have a few hundred submariners. They're going to have to dramatically increase the number of trained submariners to man these 12 vessels, although they'll be spread out over many, many years. And one of the problems is keeping these older vessels going to continue training while they're waiting for the first of these submarines to arrive.
Man, consequential decisions. I got less than 60 seconds, and I got a couple of text questions from our listeners at 71010. Can I be really unfair and rapid-fire 2 questions at you?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, one question. Can Canada not build our own submarines?
No.
It's that simple. Are we just not capable of it? Why couldn't we do it if we put our minds to it?
Very, very, very specific technology. And if you want to wait another 20 years and spend double the amount of money, yes, we can build them.
Okay, but not in any reasonable timeline. And then the next question is, why diesel and not nuclear?
Nuclear is extremely expensive. It almost certainly would rely on dependence on the United States, which we don't want. And quite frankly, diesel-electric boats still have a very important role to play in defense. They are much quieter than nuclear boats, and they operate extremely well in inshore waters. So what we're looking at is a vessel that, yes, doesn't have the range and the high-speed underwater capabilities of a nuclear submarine, but these vessels will be extremely important. In fact, the Americans probably are very anxious for us to get them because they want to train with these sort of vessels, because these are the sort of vessels that many other countries have, which are very difficult to locate, catch, and destroy.
Hey, we got to leave it there just because we're right out of time, but that is David Zimmerman, Professor of Military History at the University of Victoria. Fascinating conversation. Thank you so much for joining us here as we get this visit from one of these submarines at CFB Esquimalt. Much appreciated.
Bye-bye.
And we'll let you go back onto the BC ferries where, I love talking about the nautical future of Canada while he's on a boat. It's great. We'll take a break for the news. 9 o'clock news with Lisa's next, but that's it for me. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
CFAX Victoria.
An iHeart radio station. If it's happening,
It's here.
CFAX 1070.
Good morning, I'm Lisa Best with your CFAX 1070 news to 9 o'clock. A senior Bank of Canada official says we need to rethink our approaches to education and training as more and more young people face a difficult labor market.
Nicholas Vincent, an external deputy governor at the Bank of Canada, says young people are overrepresented in the ranks of the unemployed and face challenges with being unemployed for longer. In addition to a slowing economy, Vincent pointed to structural factors, including an influx of young immigrants that intensified competition for entry-level jobs, a mismatch of young workers' skills and employers' needs, and the growth of AI. He says we need to ask how we can better prepare young people for the new realities of the job market, make it easier for those who lose their jobs to reskill quickly, and ask what role should educational institutions play. Michelle Zedekian, The Canadian Press.
BC Premier David Eby is spending a second day in meetings with his counterparts as they're gathered in Kananaskis, Alberta. David Eby wants to know what the real issue is that has Alberta Premier Danielle Smith moving towards a referendum on separation.
Premier Smith got everything that she wanted from that meeting with the Prime Minister. British Columbia got nothing. And the response to that was to bring forward a referendum question about whether or not Albertans should separate from the rest of Canada. And so I don't think this is about a pipeline project. This is about something else. And the impacts on British Columbia of that referendum question are serious and important, as they are for all Canadians. And so that's why it'll be a topic at the table.
Danielle Smith says the views of BC premiers over the years have helped fuel a separation that lingers in Alberta now. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe sharing his thoughts on the Alberta stay-go matter. He wants Alberta to remain part of Canada, but he's not about to criticize the Premier of the province for plans to hold that separation plebiscite this fall.
Following the law. She has, 400,000 on that have suggested one question, 300 another. There's some legalities that are going to work their way through there. However, this is not a separation referendum, but her citizen initiatives legislation requires that the government move forward when those parameters are hit.
BC Premier David Eby more critical, saying the vote comes at a very bad time with the ongoing threats from the U.S. And saxman Sonny Rollins has died at the age of 95.
Sonny Rollins got his first sax at age 7, an alto. He went on to be known for his work on the tenor, like this from his 1956 breakthrough record, Saxophone Colossus. Sonny Rollins loved to play, constantly reinventing and learning as a musician, but then doubting himself when he listened back later. One story is that Rollins, who played on the Rolling Stones' Waiting on a Friend, heard the song in a New York City grocery store after it came out and was wondering who did the sax solo until he realized it was him. Sonny Rollins performed for more than 50 years and died at his home in Woodstock, New York on Monday. Sherry Preston, ABC News.
Checking your markets, the TSX in the red, 205 points, 34,625. The Dow off 125 at 50,454. Our Canadian dollar holding at 72.40 cents U.S. Today's CFAX 1070 news poll. We do use artificial intelligence to better select products when shopping online. You can vote now at CFAX1070.com or the iHeartRadio app. Your CFAX forecast mainly cloudy today. A slight chance of showers still to come this morning. Clearing this afternoon, and a high 19 expected.
Whether it's siding, gutters, or decking, ProTech Exterior Products has it all. Visit beahomepro.com to find out more.
Hey, it's Adam Sterling. I'm live at 11 a.m., diving into the issues that matter most here in the Capital Region. Right after Vashi Capellos, don't miss it on CFAX 1070 and the all-new iHeart Radio app.
Is the Vashi Capellos Show on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
It is Tuesday, May 26, a few minutes past the top of the hour. I am your host, Vashi Capellos, here with you for the next 2 hours on a lovely, sweltering, sunny, hot day in downtown Ottawa. I think it's pretty nice across much of the country, so I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying the day, and thanks for listening along. We've got a jam-packed program, as always is the case today, so let's get to a rundown of what we're covering and why. The Rundown. All right, first off, some potential consequences to what's going on with Alberta. I feel like this has just been such a dominant story over the past few weeks. First, the deal between Alberta and Ottawa to construct a new pipeline, begin construction on a new pipeline to the West Coast by the fall of 2027. Then the referendum question, the idea of Alberta independence being put to a referendum in the fall. And now some of the fallout closer to home for the Prime Minister. So it's no secret that there are members of his caucus who are more kind of climate focused, progressively minded, who are upset with what that MOU with Alberta, the construction of the pipeline, kind of signifies, all of the environmental policy rollbacks that essentially have taken place under this Prime Minister from the previous Prime Minister. And now we have learned here at CTV News that the former Climate Change and Environment Minister, Stephen Guilbeault, who quit caucus in November because of that initial MOU with Alberta, or quit cabinet, pardon me, is now considering perhaps leaving caucus as well. A number of different people in the federal government are telling me that that is their expectation as soon as this week. The former minister himself, Mr. Guilbeault, has not independently confirmed that, but people who are close to him are telling me that he's not 100% decided yet, but it is certainly something that he is considering. Our reporters up on Parliament Hill today talked to ministers as they made their way into cabinet about that possibility. Here's what Industry Minister Melanie Joly said.
So I'm a good friend of Stephen. I've worked a lot to bring him in politics, and he will always be a good friend. I also think that I'm part of much more the environmentalist part of the Liberal Party and cabinet, but I also think that what we've done with the MOU makes sense, because I also think that we need to be able to have one of the most important provinces that is the main energy producer in Canada part of our plan.
So interesting comments there. That's Industry Minister and fellow Quebec MP Melanie Joly referencing her friendship with Stephen Guilbeault, her work to get him to enter politics. He, of course, was a climate activist, member of Greenpeace, a key sort of climate figure for years in Quebec and across the country. He was brought into politics in the Trudeau era, became the cabinet minister for climate change and environment in 2021, and kind of the key face of the government's policies when it comes to combating climate change for a number of years. Once again, though, he quit back in November out of cabinet. He had a different role. He quit that role, still remained a Liberal MP, and now we are told by a number of sources in the federal government he is considering leaving caucus altogether because of all of the most recent decisions when it comes to building a new pipeline out to the West Coast. He's not the only one who's voicing concerns. More than a dozen Liberal MPs wrote the Prime Minister, highlighting some of the changes to various climate regulations and the industrial price on carbon in particular as things that they're deeply worried about. Julie DeBruzen is the federal Minister of Environment, the person who essentially replaced Stephen Guilbeault, and she says there's room for disagreement around caucus.
Look, I think that we have a caucus that cares deeply about the environment, fighting climate change, and also about how we're going to build our country in this moment. How do we build it well? So I think you have a very strong group of people who form our caucus, and I'll keep working with them.
So you may be asking yourself, why exactly does this matter? I mean, any tension in any caucus, we'd cover it in the Conservatives and the NDP. We're going to cover it in the Liberals. But the other part to the story is that the Liberals hold a majority right now, just 2 seats, right? 174 seats. You need 172 for that majority. So it's a very sort of razor thin majority, meaning if Stephen Guilbeault leaves, when Jonathan Wilkinson leaves in the summer, when Nathaniel Erskine-Smith leaves in the summer, those latter two both have confirmed to us on our programs that they will do just that. Then all of a sudden you're looking at a host of by-elections. Not to say the Liberals don't have good chances in those by-elections, but it's not a sure thing anymore. If you lose all 3, you've lost your majority. Now, Government House Leader Steve McKinnon does not appear overly worried about that.
Are you worried about losing a majority over environmental policies and some resignations?
No.
So that's a simple answer. No, he's not worried about that. We'll have to wait and see what happens with Steve Guilbeault to determine whether or not that answer stands. But we're going to talk about this a little bit later on in the program with our daily debrief panel. We're also going to talk about more of the fallout from this referendum that's going ahead in the fall. And a reminder of the question that the Premier has decided to add to that referendum. It's